Do you want the fan on?
Oh. Oh. And we are live. Welcome to the Singularity Lab. Thank you for hanging on with that hiccup. I really appreciate you guys joining us today. We've got an amazing show for you. We're going to be talking about the Fermi Paradox. We're going to be talking about the Great Filter, and we're going to be talking about all of the extraordinary mainstream media news coverage that we're seeing coming out today. So we've got a lot to share with you. I've got a lot of guests today, but I'm not seeing one of my guests in our room. So I will fix that here in a second. Hang with me, rather. Maybe you didn't get the link. But first of all, let me welcome Kristen and Luis. Welcome, guys. How are we doing today?
Hey.
Fantastic. Kristen, how are you doing? Good. Luis, you've had a pretty long day today, so you are ready to get amped up and get excited because we got a lot to share as well, yeah?
Yes, indeed we do. Sure do.
I'm super thrilled today. We've also got the one, the only, I don't want to say anything negative about dolphins in his presence ever, but I do want to ensure that we do keep talking about the dolphins. So welcome, Jazz Shaw. Jazz.
Well, thank you.
Jazz! We can't hear you. You're with us today, right? You're here. You ready to rock? You can't hear us.
No, I'm not muted. I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Can you hear us? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I didn't know why you didn't hear me, but okay.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it's great to have you, Jazz. I'm super thrilled. You had a lot of love for this conversation, the Fermi Paradox, the Great Filter. So I'm thrilled to have you aboard to have that conversation with us. And we've got Carl Vibe here. Welcome, Carl. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Got everything set up, ready to go. This is a great topic. I'm excited to dig into this and see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled. Jazz, when did this? When was this topic first introduced to you? Why is it something you're passionate about?
Oh, years ago, but before I even knew what the Great Filter was, I had been writing in the past. I have a running list that I keep of the top 5 ways that humanity is most likely to wipe itself out or be wiped out by something external that's inevitable over a long enough timeline. And yeah, it's like doom porn or whatever you want to call it. But I'm a huge believer in that. I don't know if it applies to any other hypothetical species in the universe, but I think
what are
for
your
us,
top 5?
yeah.
I'm curious what your top 5 are.
Whichever one is in the lead switches around pretty often. Artificial intelligence is always up there because I'm with Elon Musk and a bunch of other people going back to Carl Sagan who talked about it. If it ever gets to the point where it actually wakes up and becomes general artificial intelligence, I'm not fully convinced that one of its first decisions wouldn't be, wow, these humans are a real problem.
Right.
You know, something like that. Genetic engineering is another one. And this is part of the whole theory behind the Great Filter. If you advance too far too fast, you start messing with things that you shouldn't mess with. And we have CRISPR technology now. There are people that for a couple $1,000 can set up a lab in their home and start messing with DNA. And somebody, it just seems to me at some point, is going to make a tweak. And holy cow, what happens then? Biogenetic engineering. I'm not saying the pandemic that we currently have was caused in a lab, although that's one theory. But we do know that many countries have engaged in bioengineering for things like that. If you build a weapon like that and it backfires on you, just look around. We didn't all get wiped out by this, but it could happen.
Right.
And
we
there are
lucked out
some
with this one.
there are a couple external factors, like it's not our fault, but eventually something big falls out of the sky. It's happened here. It's happened on every planet that we can look at meteor records on. Been a long time since we had one here, and we're not prepared to stop one. Are we going to do that much better than the dinosaurs if something 7 miles across comes and slams into Canada? Things like that. I think there are a lot of those things. So it is possible that an intelligent civilization could only advance so far before it either takes itself down or some external factor takes it down.
Right. And we haven't been around very long, right? So, we've got another amazing guest joining us right now. Rather be Squidding. He's got a fantastic YouTube channel. I spent quite a bit of time over there checking that out today. Rather, how the hell are you?
Hey, thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to having this discussion. I think it'll be very entertaining.
I do as well. And so for those of you who don't know, like how many on this panel have a pretty clear eye on what the Fermi Paradox actually is?
Well, I think you should say what it is. I think we should establish what the Fermi Paradox is, and also what the filter is. The did you call it the Great Filter?
The Great Filter.
The Great Filter. So maybe if you can elaborate on what those are.
I can.
And so that way everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out, like, what is the best way to explain the Fermi Paradox to folks and the Great Filter. And I was scouring the internet, and I found a 6-minute video that I think does the job brilliantly. So I'm going to play that, and then we can feel free to let me know. We can stop it. We can comment on it. But I think it's going to do a great job to give everybody kind of a foundation for us to build from.
Cool.
Sound good? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share this now. Let's make sure Chrome tab, Paradox. There we go. We're going to have to watch a commercial.
And of course, sales in your business.
You guys see that okay?
Well, of course we do. And
are we the only living things in the entire universe? The observable universe is about 90 billion light years in diameter. There are at least 100 billion galaxies, each with 100 to 1,000 billion stars. Recently, we've learned that planets are very common too. And there are probably trillions and trillions of habitable planets in the universe, which means there should be lots of opportunity for life to develop and exist, right? But where is it? Shouldn't the universe be teeming with spaceships? Let's take a step back.
See, anything with like little
Even if there
drawings
are,
like this, I'm in.
Yeah, man.
You like the the cartoons?
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying the other day. I can't remember who we were talking to, but we were like, "Oh man, we should animate your story with something like this." Oh, it was Childress.
There's like an Ewok in there on the left,
Yeah,
so I'm totally on board.
Totally. I mean,
This is what you were talking about. Something like this.
it's similar to this, where it's like an infographic that explains how the IG works, for example.
Right.
So that way it's as simple as possible
Totally.
for everyone to digest.
Well, and these, by the way, this channel, it's a great YouTube channel.
Yeah, what channel is it?
It's called.
I should give them a shout out since we're using their stuff.
Yeah, let's give them a shout. Let me make this smaller real quick so I can. It's called Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. They've only got like 14 million subscribers, so I'm sure they won't mind us sharing this. But definitely check out, subscribe to that channel. It's freaking amazing.
Well, I can see why. They probably just do stuff like this all day.
Well, and this like 6-minute clip takes about 200 hours of work, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's such a great way to encapsulate such a massive concept in a short amount of time, though. It's like really efficient. It's cool.
It's probably used for Northern European elementary schools too. I just heard the name.
Oh, right. Kurzgesagt.
Yeah, I think it's a
Alien
German
civilizations in other galaxies, there's no way we'll ever know about them. Basically, everything outside of our direct galactic neighborhood, the so-called local group, is pretty much out of our reach forever because of the expansion of the universe. Even if we had really fast spaceships, it would literally take billions of years to reach these places, traveling through the emptiest areas in the universe. So let's focus on the Milky Way. The Milky Way is our home galaxy. It consists of up to 400 billion stars. That's a lot of stars, roughly 10,000 for every grain of sand on Earth. There are about 20 billion sun-like
think
stars in
about
the
that
Milky
for a
Way,
second.
Yeah.
and
Dude, 10,000
planets for every grain
Stars.
of sand on
stars.
10,000 stars.
10,000 stars for every grain of sand. Dude, and that's just the Milky Way.
Yeah, that's just the Oh my god, I love stuff like that. Like it's so relatable, and that's why I'm just like, Jesus, dude. And when Lou Elizondo says that this entire system, not just our galaxy, all of them fit within the construct of our own bodies.
Yeah.
The space between these things is just as relative as they are within our own meat bags.
That's what,
like,
yeah,
blows my mind.
That's what blows my mind is when you contemplate the physical reality that we can perceive. Like if you could travel out all the way to the edge of it and get to where there was the last particle, the last visible photon, what's really mind blowing is the emptiness that just goes on forever. Even if you got to the edge of known reality, just the vast space in between it all is what really blows my mind, is that emptiness, and what could exist in that dimension of reality that we don't perceive is really strange.
It's just
It's deep.
It's so deep, and just the
I
vastness
just want to check.
alone.
I'm the only one here that doesn't smoke pot, right?
Do you not smoke pot? Do you not smoke pot, Jazz?
No.
I
My wife's
thought
highly allergic.
I mean, I figured the one who came up with the Empire of the Dolphins theory perhaps may partake, but I guess not. Okay.
That was all gin.
Sounds more like a shroom theory.
That was all gin.
Wow.
All right.
Well, I mean, why?
It's-
Is that where a pothead would stop right there, Jazz?
No, I'm flashing back to Animal House when everybody's sitting in the living room with the teacher and they're all, token, and the guy's like, "There's an entire universe in my fingernail," and that sort of thing.
Right.
I
Well,
don't disagree that this is all really amazing stuff. I definitely, I don't agree with the Fermi paradox at all, but we'll get to that later.
Ooh, yes, we are gonna get. Oh, yeah,
let's go.
yeah.
But let's roll the video, please.
Rather has a really interesting theory as well. I can't wait to get to that too.
suggests that a fifth of them have an Earth-sized planet in its habitable zone, the area with conditions that enable life to exist. If only 0.1%
So 1/5 of the star systems in the Milky Way have an exoplanet in the habitable zone.
of those planets harbored life, there would be 1 million planets with life in the Milky Way. But wait, there's more. The Milky Way is about 13 billion years old. In the beginning, it would not have been a good place for life because things exploded a lot. But after 1 to 2 billion years, the first habitable planets were born. Earth is only 4 billion years old, so there have probably been trillions of chances for life to develop on other planets in the past. If only a single one of them had developed into a space-traveling super civilization, we would have noticed by now. What would such a civilization look like? There are 3 categories. A Type 1 civilization would be able to access the whole energy available on its planet. In case you're wondering, we're currently around 0.73 on the scale, and we should reach Type 1 sometime in the next couple of hundred years. Type 2 would be a civilization capable of harnessing all of the energy of its home star. This would require some serious science fiction, but it is doable in principle. Concepts like the Dyson sphere, a giant complex surrounding the sun, would be conceivable. Type 3 is a civilization that basically controls its whole galaxy and its energy. An alien race this advanced would probably be godlike to us.
Galactic.
Okay,
Instead of Galactus.
I didn't even read that part. I was looking at that image going, it kind of looks like Galactus. And then you said Galactic. I'm like, he can't be that clever. That is brilliant.
That is brilliant. Galactic.
But why should we be able to see such an alien civilization in the first place? If we were to build generation spaceships that could sustain a population for around 1,000 years, we could colonize the whole galaxy in 2 million
Can you
years.
stop it for 1 second?
Sounds like
Yeah.
It did say that if there was just one space-bearing civilization that we would have noticed. Is that true?
There's some assumptions here, right? I would imagine there's some.
No.
That was
talking
a
about-
big assumption.
They're talking about exponential growth. So if you are able to visit one star and expand exponentially, you'll be able to see the whole galaxy in a short time, astronomically speaking.
Well, what's a short time?
A couple million years. Millions instead of billions.
That's where it stretches your mind, is you have to take into account, like, even us as humans, if you take evolution into account, are such a short time span. And when you think and try to fathom deep time, like existential galactic time scales, like where we fit on there is so tiny right now. To think where we're going is, and that we're going to take it all over, or that we're in the center of it, is pretty egotistical when you, and that there's nothing else out there.
Yeah, and I really, when they said we could colonize, I'm like, wait, haven't we realized that that's a bad word yet? Like, aren't we?
yeah, that's true. That's what would be a better word for starting a new planet? I mean, like, what are we doing to Mars if we're not colonizing?
Well, we're just visiting it right now. So
Right,
we
but
are.
this is the
I mean,
first
that's the
steps
goal.
of
The goal is to
colonization.
colonize Mars, and the question is, as human beings, we are generally colonizers. We are constantly driven to take over whatever we find. We plant our flag
Well,
wherever we go.
It's problematic when you take over and there are other beings there.
Yes.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And the
and the other
debrief
thing
a while
is-
ago, Michael probably remembers, I wrote a really lengthy article that I got tons of feedback about, which was based entirely on the ethics of terraforming.
Yes.
And if you go to a planet that is entirely barren, there's no life. As far as I'm concerned, it's a free-for-all. It's real estate. Go in, do what you got to do. If there's so much as a microbe there, and you go in and you terraform it, it now becomes uninhabitable for the microbe. Well, then you've just taken your great expedition and turned it into the first genocide on a new planet.
Yes.
So that's something to consider, right?
Yeah.
Well,
we live
right.
We live in a cultural society, though, that will honor like 100-year-old man-made buildings, but then cut down 1,000-year-old trees like it's nothing. So it's really difficult to. I don't think that corporations factor that in very much when there's profiteering to
Well,
be
let me
be
ask
had.
you this: if there was a space-bearing civilization that was able to colonize planets at will like that in, say, 1 million, 2 million year time span, I mean, are they considering microbes when they do that? Do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think they actually get into it in this video, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
A
let's
long
watch
time.
that.
But remember, the Milky Way is huge. So if it takes a couple of million years to colonize the entire galaxy, and there are possibly millions, if not billions, of planets that sustain life in the Milky Way, and these other life forms have had considerably more time than we've had, then where are all the aliens? This is the Fermi Paradox, and nobody has an answer to it. But we do have some ideas. Let's talk about filters. A filter in this context represents a barrier that is really hard for life to overcome. They come in various degrees of scary. 1, there are great filters, and we have passed them. Maybe it is way harder for complex life to develop than we think. The process allowing life to begin hasn't yet been completely figured out, and the conditions required may be really complicated. Maybe in the past, the universe was way more hostile, and only recently have things cooled down to make complex life possible. This would also mean that we may be unique, or at least one of the first, if not the first, civilization in the entire universe. 2, there are great filters, and they are ahead of us. This one would be really, really bad. Maybe life on our level exists everywhere in the universe, but it gets destroyed when it reaches a certain point, a point that lies ahead of us. For example, awesome future technology exists, but when activated, it destroys the planet. The last words of every advanced civilization would be, "This new device will solve all of our problems once I push this button." If this is true, then we are closer to the end than the beginning of human existence. Or maybe there is an ancient Type 3 civilization that monitors the universe, and once a civilization is advanced enough, it gets eliminated
Black Duck to the rescue.
Wow.
in an instant. Maybe there is something out there that it would be better not to discover. there is no way for us to know. One final thought, maybe we're alone. Right now, we have no evidence that there's any life besides us. Nothing. The universe appears to be empty and dead. No one sending us messages, no one answering our calls. We may be completely alone, trapped on a tiny moist mud ball in an eternal universe. Does that thought scare you? If it does, you're having the correct emotional reaction. If we let life on this planet die, perhaps there will be no life left in the universe. Life will be gone, maybe forever. If this is the case, we just have to venture to the stars and become the first Type 3 civilization to keep the delicate flame of life existing and to spread it until the universe breathes its final breath and vanishes into oblivion. The universe is too beautiful not to be experienced by someone. This video was made possible.
I love the birds.
So yes, I think there's some assumptions towards the end there, but I think kind of the structure gives you an idea of what the Fermi paradox is, and it helps you understand what a great filter is. And so a great filter could be nuclear war, could be climate change, could be AI, could be any, insert technological development and or human error here. Right? That's a great filter.
Well, was it taking assumptions at the end, or was it simply just sharing what the paradox theory is? Because if Fermi was a person, I feel like that's what he would say. There's nothing here. Like, we're completely alone. We might be the only thing. It felt like almost like
I think the only assumption that
the video trying to tell you that's what's happening.
Right. I mean, I guess when I say assumption would be that we've not had any sort of contact with anything that could challenge our paradigm of it being from here or not. Right. So if people who believe who have, either had an abduction experience or who have, seen a UFO, who hypothesize that is from an extraterrestrial civilization or an interdimensional civilization, might say, well, you can't say we've never been visited, or you can't say. So that's the assumption, I guess, I'm pointing out.
Right.
And I think that makes it even more of a paradox, right? Because we see what seems to be aliens here on Earth, but when we look to the skies, science tells us that they don't exist. And that seems strange.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I always think of the most extreme places on our planet, like the most extreme, the deepest parts of our ocean that are harboring life in the hottest spouts that the Earth can produce. Microbial life just teeming in there, and then crabs just eating it, like putting their claws in melting hot, fumes, and they're just like
right. It's extraordinary the amount of life that can live in such hostile environments, even in Antarctica. Like they're finding places underneath the shelves of ice that actually are hosting life that scientists thought that we couldn't.
Those people are crazy. Have you heard about the divers that go to collect that shit? And like it's like the most dangerous diving you can do, and like
that's horrifying. That is not my bag. I'm gonna sit in my warm, comfy home and be so proud of you guys. You did it.
I think it's hard to think and remember too that a lot of this is just like statistics and it's numbers being crunched, and the reality of actually going out into space and being able to look at a planet or visit a planet, we might find that it's teeming with a vast variety of life, and it's not as barren as the calculations might show just because they're not visiting us. For example, even in the vacuum of space and on comets and meteors and stuff like that, they find, fungal spores and funguses and different things like that all around. Even out in the vacuum of space, there are microbial critters that can survive just floating out there.
They recently found some on the space station, on the International Space Station. They found microbial life just hit this at the window.
Right. So just because we're like, how come there isn't, a star-shaped humanoid type being in a suit coming down on a rocket, doesn't mean that it's not like oceanic microbial vast forms of variety that we can't even comprehend because we're not actually
Tardigrades?
going there and looking at it.
Tardigrades, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're extremophiles. That's exactly right, Kristen. They're. I mean, and we have these, and so the consideration is, and Jazz brought up terraforming Mars, recently. That's extremophiles can be used. So we were also talking about CRISPR and editing our genes. So I was talking to a genomics expert recently, and she was saying, in order to live on Mars, either A, you got to live underground, or B, you've got to create a new human. And if you were to do that, a new race of human, you'd want to use tardigrades to begin to update the biological software or hardware, I should say. Fascinating stuff.
So along with
That's not scary.
along with terraforming the world to make it more suited for human life, you're also making extremophile genetic humans using CRISPR in order to be better suited physically for those environments, regardless of what the environment's like. Then you're talking about superhuman type abilities. It's very weird.
But we have the technology, you guys. That's the insanity,
Right.
and we're going to start using it. And people are going to start, and people are already using this shit in their garage.
Right.
Right, but I mean, some reasons to be afraid of stuff like that is, for instance, they can't fix endometriosis in women. They can't keep our organs from sticking together.
Currently, yeah.
How were we trusting people to
Right.
Yeah, there's no
Right.
good cure for baldness even.
Well, we can't
So the
figure
female's concern is endometriosis. The male's concern is baldness.
Jean-Luc Picard is still bald, and how far in the future was he?
Yeah, well, maybe it just looked good,
Right.
or it was more efficient in the future.
Right.
By the way, people are saying my mic's low. Do I sound low to you guys?
Yeah, I wanted to say that earlier, but I didn't want to butt in. You're
Did you
lower
turn
than
it up a little?
everybody.
How can I turn it up? It's a microphone. I just turn it on.
You have an input, don't you? Do you have an input now?
Well, no, I mean I'm looking at the input, but
It's okay.
doesn't-
I think it's okay now.
I
Yeah.
can hear you.
I think you sound good.
Oh, how about this? Is that better?
Yeah, that
That
sounds
was
good.
louder. Yeah.
Oh, there is a mic volume button.
I
He's
just
only
found
been
mine.
he's only been streaming for 2 years, folks. Don't worry about it.
My
That we
jack
expect
is
this from
broken
UFO
down.
Dad.
Sorry, well, I am the son of UFO Dad, so an apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But what? Damn it, I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, so this idea of the Great Filter, right? And then so who's to say whether or not we have? So I'm a Trekkie, right? So for as long as I can remember, I've known that the reason that we're not being openly visited by extraterrestrials is because of the Prime Directive.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to interfere with the evolution of a species on their
That's
planet.
Stupid.
Oh, right. Yeah. I thought you were saying I thought you were saying the Prime Directive is
No,
stupid.
no, no.
Okay, so-
Species that's
right. You don't want to fuck
yeah.
with a stupid species, and so I don't know if I don't know if that holds much water, but it is an interesting theory, right?
Well, that's what was cool about. I think it was part 2, the opening of part 2 of the newer version of Star Trek.
oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, they broke that protocol because I can't remember. It was like a volcano or something on the planet, and they're like, "We have to." Kirk was like, "We have to help these people," and Spock was like, "No, like we're not allowed to come down and help these people," and they end up going down there. They end up, the volcano still explodes, but then the people see the ship rising out of the water, and then now they've based their entire culture and civilization out of this thing that they saw rise out of the water, and these two men hop into.
Right, and that's that's the entire Ancient Aliens show. That's what it's about. We've built our entire theology around what we call angels are really these extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the
it's
beginning
like
of that
cargo
Star
culture.
Trek was way more gorgeous than.
Dude, that was beautiful.
That
And not
was
to
a cool
mention,
scene.
Picard and Next Generation broke the Prime Directive all the fucking time.
Right.
Well, didn't they fight aliens in the original Star Trek?
Every
Yes, but
episode.
those were spacefaring. They weren't.
They were always like aliens trying to get on the ship, or vice versa, or they
Something,
get into a fight. Okay,
Something.
I think
Goes
it's
down.
just as likely, if not more likely, that they would want to get involved and be highly involved in what's going on when they discover it, but they would be able to conceal themselves if they're that advanced. They'd be able to hide or conceal themselves as they did it in order to play out things the way that they wanted or to shape the story the way they wanted it to go. but without even being detected or as a defense measure or a protection level. That they would have the ability to do that before they would just show up and go, whoops, they saw me, and try to jump behind a tree. That doesn't.
But even if you screw that up, even if you screw it up, people go back and tell their friends, and their friends think they're crazy anyway. Right.
Or
That's
Right.
the whole UFO phenomenon. This is the whole like culture that we've built around UFO.
Like
But
the
if
whole
they're advanced,
Dogon
they
tribe.
should be able
yeah.
to look like us, right?
Right.
For
And
sure.
I think I think there's a good possibility they probably don't care about us at all. It might just be a AI that is collecting data, and maybe they're sending it back 100,000 light years away, and there's not even an intelligent entity that's going to look at it until.
Thank you,
then.
rather. Thank
For
you.
thousands of years.
Yeah.
One
that's
of
a good
the
point.
so many things wrong about that video and about this entire discussion. That's one of the big ones, rather.
Can
Right.
you build on that? Can you guys build on that?
Well, if they were going to go there or could get to a planet, they would probably send a probe or a drone that was cloaked to investigate and to gather research and data and samples before they ever even came themselves. So it would be, I mean, we're already acting that way with our drone technology. When you think of the deep time aspect, these things would be able to do that even outside of our perceptual reality.
Right.
By the way,
Unless
Pete from Creepy Little Book is in the chat.
Oh, what's up, brother?
Dude, his show is my absolute guilty pleasure. I love watching that dude's show. He kind of looks like he talks about vampires and werewolves and really old lore and just it's fun as hell. But what I really dig about him is you guys ever seen that movie A Knight's Tale?
Yeah.
Okay, remember the bad guy in that flick? He's like this really good looking, like evil dude with curly black hair. He's like, you've been weighed, measured, and something.
Is he in quite a few other things?
Yes.
Yeah,
He's been in
He
some
always-
romantic movies too. He always plays the bad
He
guy.
always
Eyes
plays
are
the bad guy,
dark,
Yeah.
but he's so handsome.
He
And so I wanted to say that about go check out his channel because he does like 2 shows a night sometimes.
Creepy Little Book does?
Yeah, dude,
Wow.
he does one at like 11 p.m. and then he does one at like 3 in the morning, and it's awesome, dude.
Yo, make sure
It's
you go
such a cool little
subscribe.
show.
Go subscribe
Go
to
check
Creepy
out his
Little
channel
Book.
because every time I'm in his chat, he calls us out and he always shows us some love. So I wanted to return the favor because it's just a fun, it's a creepy little show, and I want him to come on and give us creepy little commentary for like 2 or 3 minutes on our show, maybe once or twice a month.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, dude. I haven't talked to him yet. We're setting up a meeting. I'm hoping to talk to him. I'm sorry, Pete. I haven't been able to call you back. I've been so damn busy. Sorry, Fermi Paradox. Let's get back. Look at Jay. He's so pissed with me. I'm sorry, Jess.
Why am I pissed?
It's
I
just
don't know. You went like this, and it looked like you were upset. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to label you.
No, that's
No, I
just
was
Jazz's
like,
resting
hey,
face.
we're talking about whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
cool.
you know.
I want to make sure I didn't upset you, Jazz. I
Well,
love
we
and
talked,
respect you.
but we talked
No, I
about
just,
Jazz.
you know,
I mean,
back
Jazz
to
and
the
Rather. We
Other, Fermi Paradox and filter thing, which
Yeah.
I think is fascinating. But this is a fun panel. I think people expect us to go off on tangents and
That's fair.
Awesome.
That's fair.
And it is. That's what we do.
But to your point, Jazz, we talked about this a couple weeks, or maybe it was last week on the show. We did a whole show about post-humanism or transhumanism and this idea that this could be being visited, or the Tic Tac, or some of these UFO phenomena could be intelligent AI sent from, I guess intelligent AI is redundant, but could be sent from afar ahead of time as drones to collect information, to collect data and send it back. Or maybe it's something much, much bigger and more vast than that, or not.
Right.
And
Well, that goes back to the whole thing about everybody's guess, might be good in most cases, because the number of assumptions that we're dealing with when we talk about the stuff in that video, the number of assumptions in the Fermi Paradox, the number of assumptions in the Great Filter, everything that is commonly put out there is based on assumptions that are drawn from studying a sample of one technically intelligent species.
Right.
For example, we went from tapping out messages with sparks on a wire using Morse code to the point where the Chinese have used quantum entanglement to send a data point from the Earth to a satellite in zero time, not fast, instantaneously. We did that in 130 years. Let me just throw this out for everybody else. Not every species is going to advance at the same rate. The dinosaurs took control of the Earth at one point, and they ruled the Earth. It was 400 million years.
Yeah.
They never invented a cell phone. They never had a car. They advanced as far as they needed to advance to be dominant.
They didn't have thumbs. They didn't have thumbs. That's true.
Kristen, you're right. They didn't have thumbs. Neither did the dolphins, just saying.
I knew it.
The point is, some creatures advance as far as they need to advance to be dominant. I'm a firm believer in the premise that the reason that humans advanced as quickly as we did is because, we had the larger brain cavity, but in the beginning, not that much larger. We were pretty crappy predators. We were not built well. And the only way we were going to survive was by outthinking everybody else.
Yep.
The dinosaurs never had to outthink anybody. They were just like stomp, stomp, stomp. Yeah. Oh, there's the meteor. Oh, we're done. And so there's just so many of these assumptions. The Fermi Paradox. It's like, well, where's all the aliens? Wouldn't we have seen them by now? Wouldn't SETI have heard them? My big take on that is go back to the thing I just said about going from Morse code to quantum entanglement in 130 years. Well, if somebody builds an Ansible, and you can all go Google Ansible if you haven't heard of it. That's a quantum entanglement thing.
Orson Scott Card, Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Right. We're waiting to listen to radio signals or radar signals or something. We've used that for a century. And if we have Ansibles in the next 50 years, nobody can intercept an Ansible. The communication is point-to-point instantaneous. If you're in between the 2 points, you're not hearing crap.
Right.
So if we're listening for somebody using radio, first we're assuming that their technological progression was the same as ours, which is a gigantic assumption. They might have gone a whole different route. But even if they did, you've got like a 130-year window in what? How long has it been now? 8 billion years? You have to catch somebody's signal that was sent in a 130-year window from the time when it was sent till it got here. After that, silence. I'm not saying that is the fact, but judging by our development, certainly could be. And why don't we know the aliens are there? This is the last thing, Michael, because I sat for a long time. How do you know that they're not here? We have all these stories, and you're looking at weird things like Tic Tacs, and you have people with better tech, the most advanced tech, going, well, sometimes they just disappear. Sometimes they don't show up on radar. You only see them on infrared, things like that. It's like, why haven't we seen the aliens yet? Well, guys, maybe you've been pretty close to seeing them all along, but the chimpanzee people just aren't quite that technically smart yet. And maybe you have seen them quite a bit. I disagree with the whole premise is all I'm saying.
Okay,
so it's audacious. I mean, that's what we say. Like we disregard the fact that even biologically we're inferior to a lot of other animals on this planet. Cats can see more than we can, dogs can hear more than we can, and we say, well, why can't we? Why don't we know they're there?
Yeah, and we use technology to try to do that. We're on the cusp as a species right now. We're in the conversation of trying to harness our own consciousness and transfer it into machines or our technology, and we're just assuming that deep time existent species that are advanced or entities wouldn't just be able to disregard the need for a physical body and just use like plasma forms or electromagnetic harnessing using their own consciousness and not even need a physical body in order to get around because they've transcended that as their technology or as they've advanced.
And it could be that the AI...
Take away all your clothes and weapons. How many predators could you beat? Naked with no weapons, I would run away from a honey badger.
I've watched Naked and Afraid, bro, a lot.
Yeah, I'm not fighting a honey badger. Get the hell out of
Oh,
here.
but just for fun, look up the Florida lady who beat up a bobcat
with her bare hands.
with her bare hands.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
crazy.
but she was defending. She was defending
Oh,
a child.
No, she
I have
didn't
to go
want the
watch
child
that.
to get woken up.
I have to see this.
Florida is a great filter.
Florida is a great filter.
I mean, if you come out of Florida, chances are you could kill anything with your bare hands.
Yeah.
But dude, it's what was it? Damn it! No.
Real quick. So what I wanted to say based on what Jazz was saying was this idea that, with quantum entanglement, like if I'm an advanced species and I understand quantum mechanics and I can utilize it and leverage it with my technology, I can do extraordinary things and communicate across vast distances. The question is, if that species or civilization existed, would it want to be seen? And my argument is yes. And so what would it have to do in order to communicate to other species looking around? And I think that's where Rather has a really interesting theory about some recent scientific developments. You want to share that, Rather?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, the common perception is that we're looking for a radio signal that's going to encode information, kind of like what we do, right? But maybe that's not how they would communicate. And there's actually another perception that we've actually seen everything in the sky and that we kind of know what's out there. We don't know that either. In 2019, there was a new project, a sky survey called the Evolutionary Map of the Universe. And it looked at the sky at radio frequencies, and it mapped the sky, 40 times better than we've done before at 10 times the resolution. And it found these really weird objects. The astronomers, they did a pilot search, and they actually presented this, and they labeled it WTF, and they pointed at this odd circle that they found that only gave off light in radio frequencies, and actually like very specific radio frequencies at 944 megahertz. And so nothing else in nature really does this. Normally things in like stars and stuff like that, they'll have a nice curve of light that they give off. It's corresponding to their black body radiation. So something that's only giving off one narrow range of light is very unusual. And scientists have been studying this since 2019 now, and they have some hypotheses, but none of them explain the narrowband broadcast from these objects. And scientists are very scared to cry alien, but I'm not. And I think that this looks like a engineered object that might be encoding information. I recently rewatched the 2016 film Arrival, and in that, that's very linguistically based, and they have these circular symbols that they propose would be the basis of an alien language. And we might be seeing that. We've only seen 5 of these odd radio circles so far, but as this EMU project continues, we're going to see many, many more. I think it's extremely interesting and potentially like alien billboards in the sky, skywriting.
You made the analogy to like fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, so it's a circle, and it seems like an intelligently engineered explosion that, we do the same thing with fireworks. We engineer these explosions to show a message and, awe people and convey meaning. This could be that on a cosmic scale, an engineered explosion that would put these atoms in a cloud that would broadcast a radio wave, kind of making it clear that this is something we should be paying attention to.
Rather, I didn't see that story. Just to clarify, and I will go look it up. Were these one-time events that happened for a moment that they noticed, or are they ongoing like beacons that this is just streaming out of these few things?
Yeah, they're ongoing beacons. It's like a ring-like cloud that's emitting these waves.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. That sounds very interesting.
Where in the Milky Way are these?
So that they don't even know how far away they are or how big they are because they don't know what they are. So they don't really have anything to measure it against. There's 3 of them are very close to each other, which is kind of interesting. And 3 of the 5 have objects in the center. They don't know if these objects are potentially, maybe they're caused, or maybe these odd radio circles are caused by those universes. What I think is that it's potentially calling our attention to those objects, and maybe some sort of signpost.
It
Wow,
calls
that is
booby traps.
amazing.
Wow.
They're literally called odd radio circle.
Yeah, and if you go down to the references, the Wikipedia is very light on information, but all the science articles are essentially WTF, what are these? We have no idea.
If there's only 5 and 3 of them are relatively really close to each other, I know it doesn't prove a damn thing, but doesn't that make you think, wow, did somebody actually become spacefaring and these were the first 3 places that they set up shop and they've got this level 3 civilization tech and we're detecting that? I'm not saying there's any proof, but yeah, I think that's a fascinating story and I was totally unaware of it. Thank you.
You know what's the first thing I thought of, rather? A circuit board. Like how,
Ooh.
I don't know how circuit boards work, but when I think of a circuit board, I think of those round connection points, and those are the signal emitters. Because when you said signal emitter, that's the thing that really sounded like, oh man, could this be like part of a circuit board and we are in a simulation and this thing is just pumping the signal to our part of the galaxy, to keep it on essentially.
There's also it brings a strange comparison if you compare it to biology or microbial biology. Like if you think of it like Horton Hears a Who, and here we have our life on the planet, and we think of ourselves as being the biggest thing and the smartest thing, and we've got all this life here on the planet. But maybe when you step out into space, intergalactic space, it becomes more like the soup of like cellular biology, and these things moving around are more like mitochondria or white blood cells, and we're perceiving them like craft in the sky coming down to our planet, but it's really like galactic inner space cellular functioning at a cosmic scale that we can't fathom because we're actually really tiny and we don't know it.
Okay, somebody take away Carl's bong.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
Somebody take away Carl's bong.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew he was going to say something like that. I just felt it.
Carl's a family man, Jazz.
I am.
and an ex-Mormon. I don't know if we're going to find a lot of drugs when we go to Carl's house.
Right. But that is interesting.
Cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
When did you find out about these, rather?
There's a YouTube channel, Anton Petrov.
Oh yeah, I love Anton Petrov.
Yeah, he God, I don't know how he does it, but every day he puts out amazing videos kind of exploring topics like this. He actually has another video that really caught my eye in which he goes through SETI puts out a catalog of unexplained objects, and they have these anomalies, and there's class 3 and 4 anomalies, and he did a great video on them. Another object that's incredibly fascinating is that there's these transient blips in the sky. Some of them are gamma ray bursts. Some of them are actually optical bursts. And they're just these kind of lights that appear and disappear. And science doesn't study them at all because they pretty much just disregard them because they're like, well, it's not repeating. Doesn't look like the other ones. We don't really know what to do with it. We're going to put this in a catalog and forget about it. But
well, that's fair, right? I mean, if something isn't repeatable, that's like one of the baselines of science. If you want to test something, it has to be observable, it has to be repeatable, it has to be measurable. And I think there's a whole zoo of things that we've observed out in the universe that are more rare than the common stuff you see. And it's really hard to hold their feet to the fire and go, well, what's that? Tell us what that is, MFers. Come on, what is that? And it's like, dude, we've seen it twice in 70 years. Yeah. I don't know.
I agree. I agree completely. But, I do feel like there's a perception that we do know it all. And, there are these unexplained things out there that I think that would be worthwhile for more people to kind of.
Is this the video you were talking about here? Hold on. Let me see. Let's get past this ad real quick.
This is Anton's kind of take on the odd radio circles. He does a really good 1 minute kind of his take on it at around 1:14 of this video.
1:14, so we do a minute from 1:14.
Did you see Anton's breakdown of Avi Loeb's theory?
Which one? The Oumuamua?
The Oumuamua. And what he thinks it is, and what science sort of he was kind of poo-pooing on it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I have heard that. I want to believe, but
Yeah.
I think that there is some valid scientific criticism to Avi Loeb's idea
For
there.
sure,
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, no,
Yeah.
he lays it out actually pretty nicely. And when I was done watching his, I was like, all right.
Abby's
Right.
wrong.
I mean, I'm gonna, because I do like Anton, and he's an incredibly smart person. But the problem that I have, and I think he pointed it out nicely, is that science really, he's trying to challenge science just to ask the question. Just ask the damn question. Like, I think Avi Loeb is okay with being wrong on his theory. I don't.
He is.
Well, now he is. Now he's a
Yeah.
Harvard alum and professor. You know, in his early
Yeah.
career, I doubt he'd be saying this stuff.
No, without a doubt. But I mean, like, I'm saying even now, like, let's say if somebody did, come up with a paper or something that proved definitively what Oumuamua was, I think he'd be like, okay, cool. But could we still ask the question? Like, the question needs to be asked.
Yep.
Just because you proved Oumuamua wasn't an alien sail, like doesn't mean that the question can't be asked or looked into by the same people.
Right. No, it's a
But
great
anyway.
point.
Yeah.
No, it's a great point. I mean, you have to be able to make hypothesis, and the hypothesis doesn't have to land in the scientific or academic mainstream. And the fact that so many people, so many academics, so many scientists are unwilling to make hypotheses that land outside of the academic mainstream is just as much of a problem as, it was during the religious hierarchy in Galileo's day. It's a problem.
And it might account for why we haven't discovered other life elsewhere, because it's just disregarded as a non-topic all the time and ridiculed so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This was cool.
Or in some cases it's just lazy, like Chris or like you were saying the other day about the ocean. Like, we haven't even looked at it, because I think scientifically we go, oh, the ocean. Yeah, it's deep, it's big. Yeah, we got that. Okay, cool. Let's go to space. It's just like, wow, that's kind of lazy. Like,
It's really lazy.
we only have looked at 3% of it, and we're going, yeah, all right, cool, we know it, and we don't need to look at that anymore. It's too. Oh, it's hard to get down there. Okay, whatever.
And there's sightings underwater all the time. We have a buddy who was in the Navy who saw a thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. He was in a nuclear sub, and they said the radar signature from this fucking thing was and it just blew past him at incredible speeds. No whale is doing that. It's just, and they were shaken up. I mean, this is when you're a Navyman in a submarine, like, first of all, that's a hard life. And when you see something like that, or seaman.
Seaman.
Seaman. Is that right, Jazz? Seaman?
What's long, black, and full of semen? A submarine.
So correct. Yes, that was Jazz's way of saying yes,
funny
Kristen,
because
that's
it's true.
It's funny because it's true. Or what are you drinking there, Luis? Is that Arizona iced tea?
No, Arizona mango. Mucho
They need
mango.
to start paying you.
Now, the
that's the idea,
fast
Kristen.
movers, by the way, yeah. Back in the
That's the
late
goal.
70s, we were picking up fast movers on sonar. It wasn't even classified. People talked about it. It was always written off as an equipment error. And it's not radar, it's sonar underneath the water. But yeah, they would pick up things like, wait a minute, we got a target doing 180 knots. And you pick up tons of targets. There's other subs down there. There's whales. There's all sorts of things you can see. But yeah, they would get fast movers, and it was always just, don't even put it in the logbook. That that's a glitch in the sonar. And now, and Tim McMillan about a year ago had an article over at the Debrief where they were discussing that whole situation. They're like, yeah, actually, we were recording all that stuff, and we're still wondering because we're still seeing it.
Wow.
So that's really weird.
Do you think oceanographers are getting those kinds of sonar and radar hits when they're doing oceanography? I'm thinking of all the oceanographic institutes that are out there that have all sorts of radars and sonars on their ships. Are they getting those types of anomalies as well? And if so, are they reporting them? Because I don't hear a lot about ocean. I would assume, that would be a group outside of the Navy that you could possibly ask and look into.
If you're asking me, I do have an answer for that because I've had to work with some civilian groups. Sonar is very common for navigation. It's very common, small ones for fishing. There are a few more advanced ones for people that are looking for deep structures, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to all be very directional, and they're just looking in a certain area, and there are limits on how powerful they can be. There's an agency that regulates that. If you want something that's actually tracking a large swath of the ocean and can follow something that's moving over a significant distance, you're pretty much talking about the navies of the various countries.
Mm.
Those are massively powerful sonars. And I'm not aware of a lot of commercial ones that can duplicate that.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
what I
got something like
wondered.
that, you'd get like one blip and it would be gone. And you would just go, oh, it's a blip. Could have been a fish. I don't know. So, yeah, you really need and I've already said way more than I should about naval submarine sonars. But
No, I
yeah,
think
let's
that's
just say
fascinating.
they're very far down the field ahead of commercially available stuff, even for research vessels and things, because they serve different purposes. If you're on a research vessel, you're looking down. You want to see what the structure is. Maybe you're looking for giant squid or something, and you're getting what bounces back at that
Well,
particular moment.
And it's
If you
not
want to find
sexy.
out if there's another goddamn submarine out there that might shoot your ass, you need a whole different sonar.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that there's a tendency of the scientific community to kind of put blinders on when they're doing these studies. They're looking for something. They're looking to prove or disprove something. And if there's data they're collecting that doesn't achieve that goal, they're happy to not spend any time thinking about it and throw it away. And I think that that's maybe a really great place we should be looking. Christopher Mellon mentioned that on Joe Rogan about like the anti-ballistic early warning systems and stuff like that. I know that even like for weather, they have infrared satellites that will look down on us. They use them in the Amazon rainforest when they were having a lot of fires there. And they do have abnormal events. They detected a big fire in the middle of the ocean, and they just threw that data point away because they just assume that it's, like Jazz is saying, just errors. They're not
It's
interested
an error,
in it.
yeah.
It
Guys,
doesn't fit my experiment.
I thank you all very much. But I think my wife just finished her phone call with her divorce lawyer. So that's...
We'll tell George we said hello.
That's it, I think. So,
Jazz, a pleasure as always, brother.
I will flip this. I will keep this on in my headphones. Love this topic. Thank you for giving me time to, share some of my views on it. This is a great show, and it's a great subject that everybody should pay attention to, and I appreciate it.
Jazz, make sure you tell people where they can find you on Twitter, if you would.
If you're really just self-deprecating, you can follow at Jazz Shaw. Trust me, most of the time you're not going to enjoy it. And don't look for a link to send me any money. Send these guys money. On the screen. I'm okay. I got a good job with the network. I'm fine. And just don't abuse yourself by hanging around with me.
Okay.
I'm no fun. So thanks,
Chris.
guys.
Chris says bye. Chris Plain says bye, Jazz.
Oh, Chris, love you guys.
Later,
You're
brother.
the best part of the
Thanks,
show.
Jazz. Have a good one. No, but I mean, again, like just going back to the Fermi Paradox and the Great Filter, I think it's important for us to like kind of wrap our heads around the vastness of this conversation, because it's so easy to forget, especially when we're getting, this everyday stuff now in the mainstream media about UAPs and UFOs. Like, we're all going, mainstream people are starting to go, oh, wait a second, are we being visited? Is this for real? Like,
Yeah.
And then that's a very different conversation than, well, we're looking at multiple portions of the sky for radio waves. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's a very different conversation now. And I guess I'm starting to wonder what that means. What do we do with that information?
Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. It's the conversation's not getting smaller every day.
Dude.
It's getting larger.
It's getting larger every day.
And when these other videos, and we know there's more coming because we have heard there are, next time a video drops, people are really going to be paying
attention because they're getting prepped now.
Big time.
And they're
Big
kind of
time.
teasing it that all, these ships, when they mention, the USS Omaha or whatever, they don't mention that those are an entire battle groups with multiple sensors and submarines and helicopters and planes in the sky. So there's a whole host of data out there that we only get the sprinkles of when it gets kind of not necessarily leaked out, but maybe accidentally declassified and released.
Right. Check this out, you guys. This is something wild. I'm going to share my screen real quick here. But talk about mainstream media and like what we're seeing and the coverage that this is just starting to now get across. I mean, you look at folks, and this just came out today on Ellen's show. Hold on one second. Here we go. Let me share this with you guys because this is wild.
Recently on UFOs, and it was so there's a lot of stories in the news about UFOs. All of a sudden, like it's crazy what's going on. I watched a documentary recently on UFOs, and it was all this stuff. I mean, it exposed all this stuff a while ago, and now it's crazy. I mean, is this something that you're surprised by, that it's so out there now?
Well, first of all, can I just say how bizarre it is that this all came out in 2020 and
Wrong.
shows never even touched it. I don't think I ever even covered this. And this is actually a story fascinating.
Dude, what's the deal with that like canned laughter at that moment? That's so weird.
Oh, well, I think nobody's going to watch Ellen's show right now. She's like canceled.
She's in the dirt. She's in the dirt right now.
And which sucks because this, I think, would be a much bigger deal if she wasn't in the doghouse right now.
Bro, she's still got 74 million followers.
Oh, for sure. But how many tweets or retweets did this video get from her?
Let's see. Hold on. Let's watch the video and I'll find out.
Half the news shows never even touched it. I don't think I ever even covered this. And this is actually a story I'm fascinated by, but there was so much news last year, and so much of it was horrible. We didn't have time to get to the confirmation of unidentified flying objects. But I will say, as I constantly remind my brother,
it's the same laugh.
So poorly
same laugh.
It's
All right, let's stop. Hold on a second.
It felt like the same laugh track.
It's a real studio, okay? But what's happening is you're getting a producer going, okay, laugh.
Yeah, with the light. The light goes up, yeah.
Well, that producer's awful because the timing on that laughter is
terrible.
Well,
horrible.
she's horrible to everybody apparently, so I guess she can't get a very good
Well,
producer.
I could just see the audience sitting there at gunpoint, like laugh. They picked up transients in LA and made that the audience.
Oh my god. All right. But
and by the way, well, since we stopped the video, he's
Yeah.
wrong. It was 2017 when this came out. That's how much this was what I was saying when I had Christopher Hahn on my show, who is a Fox News Democratic contributor to Fox News Television. He had no idea about what happened in zero. He didn't hear about it. He didn't read about it. And it was in the New York Times. Like, he completely missed it. And now you got Jake Tapper going, yeah, sorry, we missed it a year ago because it was so distracting. It was like, no, pal, it was so distracting that you thought it happened last year. It really happened 4 years ago.
Right. Well, the story broke in the New York Times 4 years ago, but it was admitted in 2020 by the Pentagon.
It was admitted in 2018.
No,
Like
it was
the Navy,
2020.
no, the Navy confirmed a year later that those videos were real, and the Department of Defense confirmed all of those things just a year after that article came out.
What happened last year? Because I know in 2020 the Pentagon.
I think they confirmed that they are actually still unidentified recently.
Correct.
Oh,
But I mean,
okay.
this has been confirmed for 3 years by our Pentagon. And for that 1 year, that's why it was like, why is the Department of Defense taking so long? And then, so a year after it released, they changed the guidelines for the Navy, and then the Department of Defense confirmed that the videos are real. So it's like that's how either A, distracting the executive branch really, really was, that everyone, Jake freaking Tapper missed this. Jake Tapper, who works at CNN and has probably got a gaggle of producers and people helping him produce his show. Nobody in his production team went, hey, did you guys see this New York Times article with Leslie Kean and this guy that came out who said he ran a UFO program? That didn't, like, think about, that's crazy. And now he's catching up and he doesn't know shit. It's so clear that he knows nothing about this topic.
Right. But and to your point though, he was aware of the article and he was like, we're not fucking covering that. That's fringe BS.
I don't think he even read it though, Michael. That's
the New York Times.
But if he had, but he's CNN. Who the hell is he to look at the New York Times and give them any sort of judgment? You guys, as far as I'm concerned, are two heads on the same animal. Like you're just as bad or as good, whichever way you want to slice it. Like it's, dude, who the hell is he? My point is that if somebody told him it's his job to be like, okay, let me read it and see what the hell is going on. It's the New York Times. It's not the Sun. It's not, TMZ. Like, it's the New York freaking Times, dude. Like, he should know about this.
Right.
He should.
No,
like,
Fire
it's
in the Sky
upsetting.
Fire in the Sky says, no junior researcher probably wanted to raise it at the time. That's a fair point.
Way. No, if it's the Sun, I agree with you. But if I'm in Jake Tapper's team, I'm going, hey, you might want to check this out. I don't know if we want to talk about it, but at least you should know about it. Like, this is this is not like the Travis Walton story and the New York Times wrote about it. This is about a secret government program funded by taxpayer dollars to look at UFOs. You need to read this, motherfucker. like you need to read this. And now he's playing catch up. And here's what sucks is you've got Ellen DeGeneres pumping this out to her how many followers?
74 million.
74 million people are now going to go to Jake Tapper for credible UAP news. He knows nothing. I'm not. This is not a knock on Jake Tapper, by the way. Love to have him on the show. Please come by. But dude, why? I don't. I hope people. I don't think they will, but I hope people can see that he doesn't know shit about this. Like,
Jazz just called you out. He said, "Stop talking shit about Jake Tapper."
He's friends with Jake. He's friends with Jake. So that's why because Jazz has been in his ear. I know that for a fact. Jazz has told Jake about this story hundreds of times. Like, because dude, like that's not I mean, come on. I'm not giving secrets here. They know each other. Like he's always talking to Jazz. Like he's always saying, Jake, you gotta, this UFO thing, pay attention to it. Jake's like, so he knows, like, I don't know why he didn't call Jazz and be like, hey dude, all right.
Well, he
may have, because remember, Jazz said when this story broke in the past week on 60 Minutes that he was getting blown up by mainstream journalists going, Jazz, what is this? What is happening?
Yeah, I hope one of them was Jake Tapper, but it doesn't look like it was.
Doesn't look like it was.
He might just be hamming it up for Ellen a little bit.
Maybe.
He has to be aware, right? But it is bizarre.
I think he's hamming it up a little bit. Let's see what he says. Let's see what he says, and try to ignore the canned laughter.
So this is actually a story I'm fascinated by, but there was so much news last year, and so much of it was horrible. We didn't have time to get to the confirmation of unidentified flying objects. But I will say, as I constantly remind my brother...
I mean, they're literally waiting for the word unidentified flying objects to chime in the canned laughter. Sorry, I said to ignore
I would
it.
say giggle also. It's giggles, not just canned laughter.
Yeah.
It's an audience full of women, and they're giggling.
He said unidentified flying objects.
That's so weird, but I get it. I
weird.
guess I get it. Okay, let's go on. Let's
I
move
will
on.
say, as I constantly remind my brother and my wife, both of whom are huge UFO aficionados, the fact that they're confirming unidentified flying objects does not mean that they are confirming ET is landing. It is different. They're saying, we don't know what this enormous blue tic-tac shaped object that
I knew you were gonna freak out when you heard that.
What tic-tac have you ever seen? That's blue, Jake Tapper!
It feels
I'm
like
sorry.
he read through some bullet points like 10 minutes before getting on air and then like got it all mixed up when
I was trying to bring the camera back to you. That was just the storming off, just the anger.
What is going on? Blue Tic Tac. I do love Jake Tapper. But come on.
my god! Blue. Okay, all right. We're gonna share this again.
We're powering through.
Yeah, we're gonna power through. I'm just trying. Like I'm literally in tears over here.
Part of the problem is all this stuff is coming out on these like comedy-based talk shows. You know,
right?
It's okay. Like it's okay. Yeah. I'm okay when Reggie Watts gets UAP wrong and calls it UAF. I'm not okay when Jake Tapper calls it a blue Tic Tac.
I know. Because he's Jake Tapper.
He's Jake Tapper.
Right.
Right.
Like, come on, bro.
He's informing people right now. Like, even though it's a comedy show, he is informing people right now.
Agreed.
So, I mean, if he's got the UFO brother, aficionado, and sister, like...
Wife. He said wife.
Wife. Like... If they didn't flip out when he said blue Tic Tac the same way I did, then they're not aficionados. like I hope. I mean, that would if all aficionados in his life heard him at that moment, they were all texting him blue Tic Tac. Anyway,
is landing. It is different. They're saying we don't know what this enormous blue Tic Tac shaped object that transfers through space and time at rapid rates that humans are not capable of. We don't know what that is. That's as far as they're willing to go.
Yeah. Well, something, unless it's like a drone from another planet, like, universes away, chance.
Universes away.
It's okay.
These people.
It's okay. I'm okay with that. She's Ellen. She's a stand-up comedian.
You're right.
That's okay. Like this, I like that Ellen's asking these questions because it gives you exactly how every average American is asking questions right now.
Right.
They're not dumb, but they're just naive to what's happening because they've never thought about it before. She's saying universes because she's like, wow, there's like more than the Milky Way. Like,
right. She meant galaxies.
I'm okay with that because she's brand new to it.
Right. And it's important. And I think to your point, she's asking the news guy, right? The news guy is the one who should be more informed on this breaking news story.
Jazz is saying that he was plugging his new book, so maybe the question caught him off guard.
Mm-hmm.
I just, but you're telling people
is
that
Jazz still sticking up for him in the chat?
Yeah, of course he is. Why wouldn't he? I know, I would too if I was Jazz. Like, I'm just saying, like, if he also said that these things that the Navy knows these things are traveling through space and time.
He did say that.
We don't know that.
Right.
Like, you just told 77 million people that? Like, now we got to go out and correct Jake Tapper.
And scientifically, it's space time. It's not space and time.
Right.
Like he still got that wrong.
Well, we're all moving through space time.
Like, he meant transmedium travel. He meant I'm sure that was the thing he was probably trying to say.
And Jazz brings up a fair point.
He probably wasn't prepared. Maybe he wasn't prepared. But I doubt that because all of these questions on talk shows are always prepared. I think he knew this was coming.
There might have
to
been
be
another
fair,
producer being mean to him.
Ooh.
Maybe they had him at gunpoint. I don't know. That's a good point. Man, I am never getting Ellen on this show. That's for sure.
Universes away. Chances are somebody or something is in there.
Right. I mean, the question is it to use a superhero metaphor? Is it Tony Stark with his brilliant mind and his Iron Man factory doing unbelievable things, or is it Thor coming from another dimension? And the odds are probably that it's Tony Stark, not Thor. You can tell what being at home for a year and a half has done to my brain that this is
well, and comic book nerds' heads are exploding because they're like, Thor's an idiot. He doesn't build spaceships. He uses that Wonderling bridge or whatever the hell it is.
The Rainbow Bridge,
the Rainbow Bridge, that's what they use to travel.
Yeah, and the guy in charge of the bridge is the coolest character in the whole.
Yes, it's true. He is pretty damn cool.
Heimdall. I actually have a
nice
Heimdall right here.
There he is.
I'm pretty sure that's not the same one from the Marvel universe.
I got this in the Viking Ship Museum in Norway.
Oh, that's
Actually,
cool.
Sweet.
Heimdall.
fucking awesome.
Yeah. Watching over the
Norway,
Bifrost.
Norway, not Disney, Norway.
But
Real
he does.
Norway.
I mean, it is interesting to think. I mean, and Jake is right on his last point. Like, from a statistically speaking, the more reasonable answer is that it is a Tony Stark. We do have a part of our government that probably is making these things, and that's what we're seeing. That's the most reasonable. That's number one. Explanation number one. That should be at the top of everyone's list. But we should be asking the question, and we should also be wondering if it's not Tony Stark or if it's not us, then who is it or what is it?
Well, I think they're
yeah, go ahead, Ryder.
they're conflating kind of two different phenomena too. There might be both of those, right? It might be both. We have military attack and we've been visited.
Yes.
And it very well might be that we were visited and we've been reverse engineering this sort of thing for a very long time. And so now we're actually in the process of unveiling that to the public. Maybe that's what this is all about.
And he's also, it seems like he might be trying to, in a rough way, using the Avengers to compare like a physical being inside flying a mechanical craft versus extra dimensional, powerful or transcendent being that's using mystical or paranormal means in order to get around, which is a different category. And he even refers to interdimensional beings when he refers to Thor. It's kind of a rough example, but he could be playing off of that difference too.
I actually very approachable, right? To like your everyday person who watches that one.
Super approachable. This idea, is it Thor, this interdimensional Thor god-like being, or is it this Tony Stark incredibly intelligent, sophisticated engineering mind that was able to, or he didn't even mention was this potential for, breakaway civilization living underneath the ocean, right? That's another possibility we have to keep on the table. And that's what I love about Avi Loeb, that he's given us the authority from Harvard to put these hypotheses on the table and not take them off just because they sound absurd. We need data, people.
Also, that's Wakanda from with the Avengers as well.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, you're right.
There's so many parallels with Avengers and like modern UFO, theory.
Wakanda is perfect.
It's crazy.
Right.
Like it almost seems like a slow disclosure behind the scenes with that industry.
Yeah. With the Avengers, right. Disney's like slowly.
Marvel's going to break it.
I can
slowly.
I can tell you, if there is any segment of Hollywood that the CIA and the military have got their little fingers in, without a doubt, it's the Marvel universe. Without a doubt.
And that's kind of what To the Stars Academy, their original charter was to do stuff like that, get these ideas out into the consciousness. And I don't think
100%.
TSA are the only ones doing that.
No.
But TTSA is probably not doing a very good job of it at this point, I don't think.
Well,
compared to Avengers.
The problem is, true. It's because I think Tom DeLonge wants to be the director of those films and the writer and wants total control.
Too much, probably.
It's like, do what you do best, man. You're a musician. Do that and give people that know what they're doing the money to do those visions that you want.
Even Edward Rappelt of Project Grudge and Project Sign, and then J. Allen Hynek both said and referenced that the CIA and the government really quickly got in bed with Hollywood and infiltrated Hollywood, and a lot of these directors like James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, and a lot of these movies have these subtle indications in them, almost like they're trying to disclose but also make it a joke at the same time. To keep it covered up, so they're like releasing real things that could be true, but then at the same time they put the Rock in there and give him a machine gun to fight it, so it's hard to take serious, Well,
and if that were the case, I would believe it, because I always get so upset that so many alien-focused films, the aliens are so mean and evil,
right?
So maybe they're trying to scare people.
Well, that's exactly what Stephen Greer is talking about. Stephen Greer is talking about right now, right? That's his whole philosophy: is we're being scared into funding this continued military-industrial complex apparatus, Space Force,
which is absurd. Because if the military and the Pentagon and these people want that money, they'll get it.
Sarah just said, "I'm watching this in bits and pieces," and just caught Lou freaking out about the blue tic tac.
You're catching all the best moments then.
Indeed, you are. Indeed, you
Well,
are.
like did you guys know that the producers and even the actors of the TV show Stargate have won and been awarded Air Force medals and awards for their portrayal of the military and their activities? And I don't know that that's happened. It's very interesting. And they've even had actual acting Air Force colonels and things like that guest appear on the show in their official role, talking to MacGyver, before he goes through the Stargate. Like it's something that they love to watch and are all part of. It's very strange.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Like, I wonder to what extent, like, and kind of going back to what you brought up earlier about mass media, and to what extent the CIA, FBI, all of these entities actually have an influence. And I've always felt like that seems like a stretch to me, right? Because it's like, to what effect would, like, for me at the end of the day, a board of directors in a media company doesn't give a shit about anything but making money. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like they don't care
also,
about anything but making money.
Also realize this. Entertainment companies, say like Fox News, Warner
Brothers. Wait. Hey, real quick. Jazz just said, oh, and Jake just said.
Man, get Jake on this show. Please get Jake on this show so we can get him on the same page, man.
It wasn't a laugh track. Studio audiences watching the interview. So they just giggled every time he said unidentified flying object. Like,
right.
What?
I think it was a producer cueing the audience at the wrong time.
Cueing the audience?
Because I think if you listen to the second half of the interview, they didn't really laugh when he talked about his brother being a ufologist or an enthusiast, or his sister or his wife or whoever. I don't think anybody laughed when he made a comparison with the Marvel movies. So
I was expecting it and it didn't come.
Yeah, and it didn't come. So I think what happened is whoever the producer was, somebody went in his ears like, stop with the goddamn laughing. It's just killing the piece. But damn, dude, like I would love to talk to James Cameron about the Abyss. That is such a cool.
Did he make
Prometheus?
Prometheus?
No. He doesn't make movies unless it starts with the letter T.
Oh, right.
Or what was the other one?
A.
T or A.
T or A. Read into that
chorus line. All right.
Yeah, read into that what you will.
Just start A and T. Just go alphabetical. But he does. I mean, he does love, like he did Alien, rather. Like he does love. He's probably one of the first directors that always casts in his films a strong female lead every single time.
Right, and that strong female lead walks away going, "I'm never working with James Cameron again."
Yeah, unless you're Linda Hamilton. Well, actually, he didn't direct it. He only kind of produced it, but she did come back for the Terminator, the last Terminator. But dude, he would be like, I think he would be one of those directors that never gets asked to be interviewed by the UFO Twitterverse or any of these shows because maybe he's just completely untouchable. But I know people have been trying to get Spielberg, especially. Like Spielberg is one of those directors that every once in a while somebody will get him and be like, "Hey man, what do you think about whatever?" And he'll give a cool answer. And he's done, I think, some behind the scenes stuff where he talks about Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the different people that he brought on board and what inspired him to make the film. Like, dude, I would love to do that with James Cameron on The Abyss, because I think The Abyss is there's like 3 killer movies about UFOs, and The Abyss is, I think, in the top 3.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
I'm embarrassed because I haven't seen The Abyss.
Dude, you gotta watch it.
Yeah. I also got shit today from my very respected friend John Russell, who pointed out, he's like, "Michael, you've seen Ex Machina, right?" And I was like, "I haven't." He's like, "Dude, you're talking about futurism and you haven't seen this movie."
That's what I gotta watch too. To be fair, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, you have. Steven Spielberg, he made what? E.T. He's got Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which exhibited paranormal telepathic stuff along with the classifying different levels of encounter before we have the 5 observables of Lou Elizondo that we have now. And he's also made all the Indiana Jones movies, which is looking for ancient relics that have actual mystical paranormal powers and things like that. And a lot of that stuff is just kind of embedded in our fun mythology that we have in our movies today.
Which is why people laugh when you interview Jake Tapper and he says unidentified flying objects.
I think we've determined that they were being forced to laugh.
At gunpoint on Ellen Soot.
And talking about the Avengers and Marvel movies and then Wakanda and different topics like that, all integrated.
Right. But I think you brought up an interesting point earlier, Kristen, about how evil aliens are always portrayed. So if there is this weird mass consciousness thing happening in entertainment, it would speak to wacky Stephen Greer's analysis.
Well,
that we want you to think it's.
See, I disagree. I think the greatest films that have ever been made on the topic, the aliens are not aggressive. So in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they were not aggressive.
That's true.
And in The Abyss, they're not aggressive. They're just they are incredibly. They're actually scared of us,
and
like
curious,
you know,
just curious.
Well,
Arrival's a great point about that, right?
Yeah, Rival's a great one, and there are some good aliens in the MCU universe too. I'm not totally up to speed, but
yeah,
that's a good point too. Rather, there definitely are. I'm on the
fence.
Avengers
are all heroes, you know.
Well, but they're complicated heroes. They're complicated heroes, and that's what I think Marvel did so well. And not to get off on a geek but that's what Marvel did so well is they complicated their characters. And I think that, they tried, there's always been this fight over at DC, not to do that with like Superman and things, it's got to be the all-American superhero and he can't have complications. But I think that's kind of the beauty of those movies.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
No, that was for the stuff I just said.
That's not.
I was like,
that's how it works, right?
That doesn't mean what you think it means.
That's how it works. Oh man! By the way, I'm tweeting at James Cameron. I'm gonna see if we can get him on the show.
If anybody has a connect with
good old Jim Cameron.
Yeah, Jimmy
Cam. I think the way to reach out to anyone we've talked about at this point is like, we said wonderful things about you
on our show.
Yeah, well, I guess we guess there goes Jake Tapper. Oh man, I just blew that.
And we've blown Tapper now. Great job. Appreciate that.
Well, we got Jim. We've always got Jim. I'm going to reach out to Jim. See what happens.
Reach out to Jim. See what you can find. But there's an interesting. I'm going to share this real quick. This is kind of interesting as well. If you're familiar with hold on 1 second, the physicist Nick Bostrom, he's got an interesting, it's called the vulnerable world hypothesis. And this kind of relates to the great filter that we were talking about earlier. And he wrote this whole paper on it. And it's extremely fascinating. It comes from Nick Bostrom at the University of Oxford. And the abstract, real quick, I'll just read you the abstract and then we can kind of talk about it. It says the scientific and technological progress might change people's capabilities or incentives in ways that would destabilize civilization. For example, advances in DIY biohacking tools might make it easy for anybody with basic training in biology to kill millions. Novel military technologies could trigger arms races in which whoever strikes first has a decisive advantage, or some economical advantage or economically advantageous process may be invented that produces disastrous negative global externalities that are hard to regulate. This paper introduced the concept of a vulnerable world, roughly one in which there is some level of technological development at which civilization almost certainly gets devastated by default, in example, unless it has exited the semi-anarchic default condition. Several counterfactual, historical, and speculative future vulnerabilities are analyzed and arranged into a typology, a general ability to stabilize a vulnerable world would require greatly amplified capacities for preventative policing and global governance. The vulnerable world hypothesis thus offers a new perspective from which to evaluate the risk-benefit balance of developing towards ubiquitous surveillance or a unipolar world order. That shit is fucking deep.
Ew, David.
Dude, that is deep, because you have to think about like basic, and this is I think Jazz nailed it like at the beginning of the show. Like I think that's pretty much what he laid out, is you have all of these different ways in which people in their garages with evolving technology can end civilization, or at least stunt the human species, human civilization, in ways that are incredibly radical. And so how do we monitor that? And he's offering the suggestion of, well, either A, we need to get more, we need to monitor people more closely, or give up that possibility. Yeah.
But that's coming from that whole delusional male perspective that the people in power are actually good at their job or have altruistic like motivations in the first place, which we know they do not. So why would you put that power in the hands of
the people who are just as dangerous as the idiots in their garage?
Exactly.
That's a great question. I don't know. How do you solve that equation? How do you solve, because so many, like I'm an optimist. I love technology, so I'm always going to be optimistic when it comes to technology and the ways in which it can solve human suffering problems. But at the same time, for every advance in technology, there's an equal opportunity for destruction. And the more democratized that technology becomes, the greater the ability for individuals to have the power to destruct the civilization. So, I don't know.
Hasn't it already gone past that though anyways? Wasn't it at like that gaming convention a few years ago? Some kid broke into the Pentagon files in like 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love the kids. The kids. Gotta love
And you have
kids.
to think a lot of our breakthroughs in science and medicine and things are usually discovered by accident. And so you wonder the chaos of that, where people just tinkering, trying to do one thing, accidentally trigger something else. And that kind of ups the ante on that.
Well, that's what happened with the space program. We started the space program to beat the Russians to the moon, and all of the technologies that came out of that stuff, and a lot of things ended up in society. A lot of things that we don't even think about, like the rubber for your shoes, just weird things, like textured tiles,
right?
Like just like all these really cool different applications that we never had thought could be used for things, but we go like, oh, this is great.
And this is my argument to Kristen every time we have this conversation about space exploration, because she's always like, we only know 3% of the ocean. Study the fucking ocean. Get your dick out of the sky. Like, come back to Earth.
I can tell you this: if you could figure out a way to safely travel miles underneath the water.
Which is also very
a very technical. I mean, we could do it with submarines, but like there's no windows on a submarine. You can't see what's going on with your eyes. Which is like, imagine if we had a submarine that you could do that with.
Right, but to your point, the space program has done extraordinary things by accident, as you were saying, Carl. Like we discover all of these things because we're trying to manufacture things to go to space, and then we have all these alternative amazing inventions that help humanity. And so, but at the same time, this idea of going to space, well, it's a lot easier to fly in space. There's no pressure. When you're under the ocean, when you're under
there's
billions of gallons of water, the pressure.
Dude, what do you think?
It's much harder.
What do you think happens when an airlock gets broken in a space station?
Everything
gets sucked out.
Yeah, that's pressure. It's a different kind of pressure.
Right, but my point is that it's easy. When you put something in space, it's easy to maneuver. You can literally just barely, that's what a solar sail is. It's the ability to move something super light, and you barely have to put energy on it, and it moves. In the ocean, it takes a ton more energy to move something underwater.
Yeah, but dude, you think it takes more energy to move something underwater or to propel something into space?
Well, you're right. It takes a lot of energy to get it out of the atmosphere. But once you're out of the atmosphere, it's easy. It's easy to direct a craft.
I think Kristen's onto something with if we can
I'm not
figure
saying
out.
she's not onto
No,
something.
I'm not. That's not. Did I say that, Michael? Did I say that? Okay. All I'm saying is I think she's right. If there would be a lot of happy accidents that you could figure out. For example,
going underwater. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
More affordable housing. That could be something that could be made available from underwater housing. There's all sorts of things that we could possibly do. Clean the ocean for one. I mean, that should be an initiative just as important as going to the moon. Figuring out how to fish and eat fish without destroying the entire ecosystem. Those are things that I think are way more important than going to Mars. Honestly,
yeah. I agree.
And like if Elon Musk if he really wants to save the world, figure that out. And it wouldn't take him long. Like it would take him 2 years, and then he could go back to his rockets and all of the things he's really into. But like he should put a couple of $1 billion into figuring out how to clean the ocean, or even better yet, how to desalinize. How do you say salinate the ocean water and turn into clean drinking water? Because we're running into a fresh water issue. It's coming. Like we're not going to have enough of it pretty soon. But then again, you have also sections of this world, Michael, like. And I don't know who cares how you feel about Bill Gates, but he did try to spread a polio vaccine, but because in Africa there are different sections of Africa that have different warlords that don't let people from these different organizations come in and just help people. Like, let's put in some plumbing in your country. Like let's give people some medicine, and they're like, get out of here or we'll kill you. So it's technology's not the answer. It's part of it, but it's not the whole answer. And so that's why I fear the singularity, because if we don't figure this shit out first, the singularity is going to destroy us, not make us better.
Well, and that's the great filter, right? That's the whole point of this conversation. Yeah. So, it's like, and that's Neil Bostrom's vulnerable world theory, Nick Bostrom's vulnerable world theory, is that we can't just leave it up to technology to save us. Even like, again, I'm going to say it, I'm a technological optimist. I think it's going to help, but without ethics, I don't know. It's horrifying. What do you think, rather?
Yeah, well, I don't think ethics are really the answer, because Carl has said a lot of this stuff is by accident, right? So it's kind of, we just have to protect ourselves against potential technological advances. And when we talk about exploring the ocean versus space, I think that's one of the reasons why perhaps we should explore space, so that we can colonize Mars and the moon. And if someone lets out some nanobots that eat everything on Earth and turn it to the gray goo, we'll be on Mars and we'll be all right. And that's potentially one of the ways to avoid that vulnerable Earth hypothesis.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly the motivation that Musk has. He wants to ensure the human being survives if we do fuck it up here. The argument against that is, but what if you put the money towards developments here?
How about figuring out how to take carbon out of the air? Why don't you?
Well, he's doing that. He's actually on top of that.
Well, I mean, that's a criticism to the whole UFO community that some people have, is that, we're all focused on aliens and stuff, and we could be focused on solving real human problems.
That's a
and
great
I
point.
think that a lot of our hope is probably that this UFO problem might help solve
a lot of those
human problems, but there's definitely no guarantee about that.
But that's as bad as faith in a religion to save you.
Right.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Right.
It's a little bit different, though, if you think that, there's maybe a recovered metamaterials or objects that lead to fiber optic technology or anti-gravity technology or different things like that can benefit society and humanity. Is a little bit different than just jumping into a religious belief system or something like that and jumping into a mechanized cultural system. But I think it really depends on the people discovering these accidents, if they're hardwired with moral values and with a broader perspective than themselves, rather than an ethics committee coming and slapping them on the wrist when they get audited twice a year. There's a totally different approach.
Yep. Yeah,
Dude, these comments, hold on, sorry. Rather, I'm going to give you the floor right after this. These comments are fire. Jason says, we got Iron Man flying around and my dial-up speed DSL internet is completely down. Andrew says, put a brain implant in everyone to make them smarter and track everything. Anyone gets out of line gets an electric shock. Yeah. Sorry, Rather, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that I'm not too afraid of technological advance. I mean, I think that if you look through the last 300 years, we've had society-changing advances almost, every couple decades. And look at the population curve. We're like on a straight line up. Humanity is expanding and doing pretty well if you just look at the numbers.
Right.
Yeah, no, well, I always say that there's never been any less suffering on the planet than right now.
Well, I would
medicine, there's more, there's more everything.
So my argument would be to that statement, and that's a very important and good statement. So when you think of it in a percentage, then you're absolutely right. There is less per capita human suffering on the planet than there's ever been in history. But with 7 billion people on the planet, the amount of people suffering is actually greater. So it just depends on the lens that you look at it through.
For sure. But like you could take that lens with almost anything horrific that, especially here in America, for example. It's a touchy subject, but like, for example, police brutality. Like it's in 1992, that was a problem that segment of society was saying, hey, this is going on. And we didn't believe them. And then we started putting body cameras on people, and we still don't believe them. Like it's wild, but if you look at the numbers of complaints, or let's just say people who've died at the hands of police officers, if you look at that number and say 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990s, like I promise you that trend goes down. It goes down, Christy, we can't hear you, I think, because Michael's out. Well, yeah, we'll figure it out. I think Michael's going to get back in the show in a second. But you guys know what I'm saying, right? Like, even though, like, I think it was something around 300 people died last year or the year before at the hands of a police officer. If you look at that number in, 1992, I bet you it's double, triple that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that society is getting better. We focus on the things that haven't made it there yet, and I think for good reason. When it still happens at all, we should correct it. But I think that is a great point that looks like we're trending in the right direction.
We are trending in the right direction, but because we have those body cams, everybody's got a camera now in their pocket. It looks like it's really, really worse. When statistically speaking, it's gotten better.
And
who came out and said it's not getting worse, it's getting filmed? I can't remember who said
Will
that.
Smith, I believe, said that.
Right. No, it's
which
true.
is fair, which is a good point.
Yeah.
But again, it's right. It depends on whether you're looking at the percentages or you're looking at the raw numbers. Because if you brought up racism or violence against minorities, it's always been happening. And the more people you have and the more technology you have to film it, now it looks like the raw numbers are bigger, even if the percentages might be smaller. So it's a very difficult thing to filter and integrate and understand what's the ground truth.
And it's insanely hopeful to me, like our younger generation, like our teenage daughter the other day was leaving to pick up her sister in the evening, and she saw that there was a cop car in our neighborhood, and she literally called us to tell us to go see what the cops were doing and make sure our neighbors were okay. So kids are,
Well, they're hip to the game. I mean, I can promise you, I don't think in 40 or 50 years we're gonna have assault rifles be a normal thing that's sold. I think that's kind of stuff is gonna start going away. But there's also I'm afraid of that too, just because my family came from a country that took people's guns away, and then it became, communist Cuba, or communist Venezuela, or North Korea, or whatever. And like, there's a place in society for things, but it's just how we treat those things in society. Like, for example, there's a great book called "What's Bad for You is Good for You." I can't remember who wrote it, but it's all about embracing those things that you think you fear or are no good in society. For example, you always tell a kid, don't play with fire. Don't play with fire. Never touch fire. Don't play with fire. Instead of, let me show you how to build a campfire. Like, let me show you the importance, the responsibility, why this is so dangerous, why we take all of these precautions with fire. It's the same thing with a gun. Like, I truly, truly, truly believe that if you teach kids at a young age what a gun is, how to use it, let them shoot it. Of course, all of this is supervised, but to really get them to grasp that this is a tool that can take away life in an instant and build that respect at a young age, I think you're going to see the numbers of maniacs with a depressed state, and the first thing they do is grab their uncle's assault rifle and go on a shooting spree. Like, those things will start to disappear because you're going to have a country that is educated on how to use these things. Like, you're never going to have a kid who says, hey, you want to go see my dad's gun? He keeps it in his drawer. Like, if that kid has been taught how to use that weapon and is familiar with it and has a proper respect for it, they will never take him into dad's room to show him the rack of guns.
Right. I think we have society, and as a civilization, as we progress into this new advancement in technology and discoveries, it's like you have the UFO community and the futurists all looking off the front of the ship, like an icebreaker, seeing where we're headed and where the dangers are in the future and what's coming. You have where we're at, and then there's always going to be this wake behind the ship where it's all been broken down and people left behind and parts of and pockets of civilization that, while we're progressing with this advanced, crazy technology that we can't hardly fathom, you turn around and look off the back of the boat and there's people still without running water and plumbing and electricity and these basic human needs. And so as we break the ice moving forward, it leaves this, how big is the wake going to be behind us, and who's going to be in that wake? And if that's not being considered, then we're driving a dangerous ship.
Well, that's why I always say, like, we really, as a society, I think the number one thing we need to figure out for individuals specifically is what's enough. Like, what's the number? What's the like sports? A lot of our favorite sports in the world have a cap. There's a cap to how much somebody can get paid. What's that number? Like, what's reasonable an amount of wealth and power for one human to possess? To a point where we go, okay, guy, okay, like, you've got enough. Like, we're not taking away any of your business. We're not seizing anything. But what we're going to do is start taxing you insanely hard on every dollar you make past X.
Right.
Because that lost part of society has not been addressed in so many just in this country. So many cultures, races, religions, they get left in that wake, and then people who are on the boat look at the wake and go, well, it's their fault that they're in the water. It's like, no, pal, you're on the ship that's causing this issue. And it's like, I wish we would get to that answer before we ever answered UFOs, the Fermi Paradox, any sort of singularity. What is enough? Like, how many? A trillion? Is a trillion enough for you, Bezos? Is it 2 trillion? Is it 10 trillion? Is it all the money in the world? Like, what is enough for you? And at what point are you going to build a facility where your people can piss during their job? Like, I mean, like,
what's your response to Brian's response that it's been addressed in Venezuela and Cuba?
What has? What has?
So the question is-
I
Communism?
think he's speaking.
He's speaking to communism. He's saying when you take away, when you give the state the authority to make that decision, and you move the production to the state, that
I'm
has
not telling you
just
to
as
move the
dangerous
production to the state. That's not what I'm
repercussions.
saying here.
He's
I'm not
talking
saying
about a
I'm
cap.
not saying for the government to come into Jeff Bezos' Amazon and go, okay, we run this now. That's what happened in Cuba. What I'm saying is when Jeff Bezos hits his, I don't know, $400 billionth in profit, that the 400 billion in one, that $1 after gets taxed at 90%. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I don't
I
think
understand.
anybody needs $1 billion.
Well, and I just want to make this point because I think it's important. And again, this comes to lenses, right? And so many folks, when they say, like during this pandemic, they said, this person Bezos, extreme has this, it added this much wealth, and this person added this much wealth. I think it's important to remember most of that wealth is not liquid. So if you create something and your pie becomes more valuable, you didn't make more pie.
Right.
Your pie is just more valuable.
Right.
And so like, it's not like he's just making this, he's just bringing in this much more cash. His pie is just more valuable.
No, I
and so
understand.
are you supposed to say, make my pie less valuable?
Well, and I don't think that this is even necessarily a political problem. It might be like a society problem, like we all kind of live isolated in our own little places. We don't really have a good sense of community anymore. Like we don't have the whole village getting together and eating around the community table. And I feel like that's
what's your neighbor's name?
I don't know. I know
anybody. Does anybody know their neighbor's name?
This neighbor over here is named Michael.
That's just
neighbor
easy.
across the street.
Name the other two. Name the other two.
Lori across the street.
Lori across the street. We've got
Carol, the elderly.
Carol.
Yeah.
Chris, you noticed Kristen came up with those names, not me, right?
Yep. I'm just saying, it's you're right, rather like you're right, dude. Like it's got to be what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like you have to take care of the people that made you that $24 billion profit.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. When you're building he should be penalized.
But like
for every building
Musk
that
will
he
argue,
has.
Bezos will argue, and Musk will argue that they give their employees stock so that they're giving them part of the pie, and as that pie increases in value. Now, what the problem I think is that they smash them when it comes to unionizing. They smash them when it comes to workers' rights. So we could really go down this rabbit hole, but I'm not sure we want to.
Let me ask you this, and I'm sure we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but what Amazon package guy have you ever met that is stoked about the stock options he's getting?
Honestly, I have a family member who works for them.
And what do you both?
Not in
Maybe I'm
regards
wrong.
to the stock, but she really enjoys her job. She has one of those fake service dogs, and they let her bring her dog to work, so she's pretty stoked about working there.
And she loves her benefits. And she got a pay increase last year.
Is she one of those stock people?
I believe so.
Wow.
Yeah.
She appreciates her stocks. But again, like that's not liquid for them either, right?
Right.
Like they're getting this stock, which is going to help them 10, 20 years from now, but it's not going to help them, not have to pee in their car. Right. So we've got to find the balance here. Like, and maybe it's just about policies in which companies have to take care of their people. But at the same time, if you survey all of the economists in America and ask them if a $15 an hour minimum wage is a good or a bad idea, 50% will tell you it's a good idea. 50% will tell you it's a bad idea. And and then if you actually, as an economist, dig into the research, what you'll find is this is a hugely political and polarizing issue that actually has way less bottom line benefit to those in poverty than you would actually think. And so it's very easy to get morally angry and upset and say, this is what it should be without looking at the economic actual ground truth repercussions. And I think this is where we all can do a better job of listening to each other across the political
But
divide.
the thing is, though, is that you've got examples in Fortune 500 companies where the CEO is like, well, I could give myself a $2 million a year salary, but instead I'm going to give myself a $750,000 salary because I can have a house, I can go on vacations, I can buy my wife a nice ring, I could take care of my kids, they could go to a great school, and then that $1.2 million in profit I'm going to give to my employees, the people who've made me who I am today. And guess what? It paid dividends for his company.
Yep.
And it's also, it wins.
Are you talking
loyalty.
about the guy who pays all of his employees $75,000 a year?
Yes,
that guy's a genius.
Like, it's a genius move, and it should be the shining beacon for Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Like, that goes to the base of my question. What's enough? Like, what is that number for you? And if you think it's $1 trillion, fine, then let's cap it at $1 trillion. And if you make $1 past that, then it's got to go back to the people who got you there. It has to, man.
Right. I know. The argument is against that is those people will no longer have any incentive.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. I agree with you. I actually believe that legacy means a lot more to somebody than like Elon Musk than that next dollar does.
Dude, let me tell you something, Michael. And we've both worked in the restaurant industry, right? So
we have.
know, and this is in the industry that I always compare things to. Okay, could you imagine, like, especially the first year I worked in the restaurant, the best restaurant I ever worked in. We were getting our tips in cash every night. Okay.
Yeah.
So
me too,
we
man.
were able to take that cash and really make it go far in a city that's incredibly expensive. Then they started putting our tips on a check. And that was a $15,000 pay cut for me.
Yep, because you had to start paying taxes.
Now I got to start paying taxes on that money, right? And then I start looking at what my tax dollars are going to. And they're not going to anything that helped me become more of a successful person. But here's my point is, let's say the head chef of that restaurant, who, by the way, is a millionaire, okay, said, you know what?
I don't know what. Most head chefs aren't millionaires.
Well, this one is.
Okay. Fair enough.
If forget about dude, if he had made up that money, let's just say he was able to make up that money somehow and still give me the pay that I was used to, I would still be working there. He would have bought so much loyalty and more passion for me because I could go, wow, that millionaire just took a pay cut to make sure I could feed myself and pay my rent. And he also paid all of these chefs above minimum wage, but he never did that. He never, and they never will. Like, to this idea that we're going to let a millionaire be charitable to his employees and workforce is it's a joke. That's why I think it has to be in some way regulated. It has to be
completely.
And I'm not saying like I think we need billionaires. We need Elon Musks. We need, Amazon, because I love getting my packages in a day. Like, it's a brilliant company, but there are in the buildup of this brilliant company, you have left this massive wake behind you that is destroying lives and communities and environments. For what? So you could buy a fucking 2 more yachts that you're never gonna use because you don't have the time? Like I just don't understand, dude. I don't get it.
Super yacht, I think.
Well, it's just like these people who have multiple houses around the world, and you hear about these folks all the time, and they haven't I'm in my house in France. I had to come here because I just haven't been here in a year and a half, and I'm paying the staff to water the garden, and this is all economy. Like, that's all part that he's chipping into the economy, so it's a good thing, right? But at the same time, you could have just not bought that fucking house and taken all of that money and reinvested it into your workforce. Like, give them health care. Don't make them pay for it. Give it to them.
Right, but here's the question, and I agree with you. I think that you can have there are probably better policies that we haven't even been discussing that could hold corporations of, who have more than 100 employees or whatever accountable to ensure that the people who work for them have good lives. But like, for example, I'll just give you a quick example of the minimum wage conundrum. You raise the minimum wage, and what do companies do? Wait. Here, two things. Most people think they're just going to lay off workers, but that's generally not what happens.
Nope.
What actually happens is they give them less hours. And so the person who's now making $15 an hour is only getting 10 hours a week. So now they have to have 2 jobs or 3 jobs, and now they're not getting benefits. So if you think the bottom line is this one solution, you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. But there are ways around that. For example, like I'll go back to the restaurant. If I'm a guy who's been working in restaurants for 20 years, right, and I've got the experience to know how I've done every job in the restaurant that you could possibly think of, I should be the first person that gets that $15 an hour minimum wage with my guaranteed hours every week. But the kid who's 18, who just came into the workforce, doesn't deserve $15 an hour. That kid should get paid like a kid, unless, of course, that kid doesn't have any other support systems, okay, and is going to school, let's say. Then there should be a grant for that kid to take out, and so those things could be made up in addition to the job that he has. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. We have 2 17-year-olds and a 16-year-old. And before the pandemic, they could not get a job, right? Because people want skilled workers. And the higher the minimum wage is, the more skilled those people are going to want those workers to be.
It's a bit more complex than that too. I think they fear theft more with younger. I think it has to do with the stipulations on the hours that kids can work if they're in traditional public school and blah blah blah.
There's a lot of reasons, but when you bring up the minimum wage, and that's why I'm okay with bringing up the minimum wage. Like, bring up the minimum wage, great. But like, don't bring it up for kids under 18, or they'll never get into the workforce until they're 18.
Never.
And then they're going to be unskilled by the time they're 18 and not be able to get a job. Kristen posted this online the other day. People thrashed her.
I got in a huge fight with all these people over one of the Burger King franchises that decided to advertise to 14 and 15-year-olds for jobs. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. My kids would have loved to have jobs when they were 14 and 15. And I just got slaughtered. I got slaughtered.
No, I mean, look, man, like, there's nothing wrong with a kid having a job, okay? Just don't give that kid 40 hours and $15 an hour.
They were like, bitch, your kids just don't want to be around you. That's why they want to have jobs when they're 14. I was like, God damn.
Damn, dude. That's hardcore.
I know.
That's hardcore.
I was like, what group are you in, Kristen?
Like there's also something.
Hopefully that wasn't coming from your children.
Right.
Well, dude, there's also
they're like avatars online. They're like slashing mom in this group, in this equality group.
There's also like, I can understand a small family-owned business, say, like, let's say you open up your own restaurant, and it's you, your wife, and maybe even your kids are servers, or you're cleaning the dishes, you're doing everything, right? And you have a small staff. Of say 5 to 10 people. Like, I think companies, small businesses like that should get subsidies that make up those income gaps so they can give their workers $15 an hour until they can sustain it themselves. Like, we give small business loans. We do this stuff all the time.
We subsidize so much shit that nobody complains about.
We subsidize all of the medicine that we overpay for. Like
the corn industry. We subsidize this shit out of the corn industry. Nobody's like, why are you giving these farmers welfare?
Nobody ever wants to subsidize the American people.
They are.
No, seriously.
Well, some people do, I guess.
Nobody ever wants to subsidize the American person, the American people, the American worker, the American blue collar worker. It's always, that's socialism. That's socialism. It's socialism. It's socialism. It's socialism. Well, why don't you call it socialism when they do it for American Airlines or for Pfizer or for Chevron? Like, why is it socialism when it comes to to helping human beings.
To the little guy.
Yeah, I think Bill Maher said it quite a while back. He's like, let's step away from this socialism competition. Let's call it capitalism plus, right? Capitalism plus a social safety net. Capitalism plus healthcare. Capitalism plus, and it's
Dude, social security is socialism. It's in the name. Like,
it is.
You know, like, could you imagine a country without social security?
Could you imagine having to pay to get the fire department to come to your house?
Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
dude, like, it's like, come on, man. Like, the money's there. The
And then
money's there.
overall, you have these corporate mission statements that become this umbrella to encompass everything. For example, like if you bring up CRISPR again, CRISPR would argue probably in their mission statement that all this millions of dollars that they're spending in trying to advance CRISPR is trying to solve these problems. Like, what if people didn't have to drink or eat as much water because they could genetically modify it? Or Elon Musk is saying, well, it's worth it to spend all this money because we need to colonize another planet for the humanity's safety. And so they have these overarching mission statements that they're chasing after, like the front of the icebreaker ship. And they don't really care if they have to lay off hundreds of people off the wake of the boat in order to accomplish the mission statement. And they think that mission statement has more virtue than the heads that they're stepping on to accomplish that mission.
Mm. Yeah,
True.
I mean, it's true. And I don't think there are easy answers, but I think there are. You know, we can do things that matter and make a difference and help people. Like I don't I was a huge Yang Gang supporter, because
Right.
I believe that the people talk about big government, right? And it's like, what's smaller government than just cutting people a check? Like, that's the easiest thing. Like, the administration required to cut a check is so much less than building elaborate administrative social programs.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So,
and a check helps people.
It helps people.
Like, look, what's happening right now is there are all these part-time shit jobs that are available because they're opening up again. Everything's opening up. Thank God, right? But nobody wants these jobs anymore because they made more working on unemployment than they did working their back-breaking, ball-busting job that they've been doing for 10 years, and they just had a year-long vacation, and they never want to look at their boss in the face again because they've been begging for a quarter raise for the last 3 years, and this scumbag won't give it to you because he can't afford it, but yet he's driving up to the goddamn restaurant in a Mercedes Benz. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, it boils my blood when I see stuff like that. And
what really grinds my gears?
We're gonna have a problem, dude. We're gonna have a problem. No, like the job should be flowing right now. And
they are flowing. They're just shitty jobs.
Right.
And people
they're
are
terrible jobs.
Right. And yet when you have a $600 check coming in from unemployment, you're not going to want to go back to that shitty ass boss. And so we're in this.
And they were getting, in some cases, they were getting $1,200 a week.
Right.
Like,
that's dropped. But yes.
Yeah. No, that's dropped now for sure. But I'm saying, like, that was like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was like, oh, wow, it's like I really have a job. Like, they actually supplemented my income, which gave me the freedom to start this channel. And that is the whole philosophy of the Yang Gang, is you give people this net so they can go explore other things that were going to contribute to society. So instead of me starting a YouTube channel, say someone gets that extra $2,500 a month, okay, plus whatever they're doing for a real job, quote unquote. Maybe they take that $2,500 and they save it, or maybe they go back to school, or maybe they go volunteer at a hospital or a convalescent house or whatever, dude. Like, they're gonna find ways to contribute back into society, and all of that money that you're spending is gonna come back tenfold.
Yeah, we're in a really interesting place, you guys. I mean, what's happening right now is going to be reshaping our society for years to come. And so we're getting people are like, half the people in the comments are like, I could do politics and UAP all night. Half the people are like, what the fuck does this have to do with the Fermi Paradox?
It does, because we have to answer these questions before we get to the answer of the Fermi Paradox. We have to answer these questions before we get to the singularity.
The great filter. Filter.
And it's at the heart of the disclosure movement, because we're trying to say, if you guys have this elite technology or science or capabilities that you're hiding and stowing away in these metamaterials that could solve these human issues, we deserve to know. And that stuff needs to come to the light. People shouldn't be ridiculed for trying to talk about it. And if we can get help from elsewhere, from other beings in the universe, or if they're benevolent and haven't wiped us out yet, then let's have that conversation and try to approach this in a good way.
But also people,
I
know, but I was saying, just to follow them up, but also if you give people a check, they will have more times on their hands to think about shit like that.
Right. And they'll have to come on Google, this multi-billion-dollar network, to make videos.
Right.
It's a tight loop.
And Google will take 30% of
rather.
everything off the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you're all making great points. And, I was coming into this conversation, one of my pet peeves is that, the government doesn't really spend much money at all in SETI research. Most of that is funded by private industry. There's a breakthrough listen project where they're spending 100 million over 10 years to look at this stuff, which is a drop in the bucket, really. But, after this conversation, it is a question of whether we should be spending that money on SETI research, or we should be spending it back here, and helping people to.
Well, look, I don't mind spending money on SETI. What I mind spending money on is dropping bombs on countries that we have nothing to do with. Like, how much do those bombs cost? How much do the fuel of all those planes and feeding and housing? Like, I know we can feed and house people because we do it in 180 countries around the world very well.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we can't figure it out here.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a question of money. It's priority.
It's never a question of money. It's always a question of priority. Absolutely. It's the money we print. Actually, cash, the dollar is one of our exports.
Right. But I think to this point of, how do we solve these issues as part of the great filter, right? And I think a lot of people bring it back to these black and white scenarios, and they go, well, it's either capitalism or it's communism. Communism sucks balls. Capitalism is the winner. And I will say that communism sucks balls. Mm-hmm. Like, it's horrifying what happens when the production is owned by the state. You see what happens in a place like Venezuela. It's awful.
Has it ever been done without a tyrant in power, though?
Never.
Yeah, see, so it's possible that it...
We need an AI singularity government. I think that's what we need.
Yeah, if we could just turn it all over to an algorithm, right?
I mean, communism on paper, like the Communist Manifesto, if you've ever read it, it's like it's an idea that is the biggest flaw of it is that it's a human that has to be, like a really unflawed human.
Maybe it is.
Because on paper, communism sounds great, but it never works because people get greedy.
Because people are greedy, and that's the thing. So capitalism, you democratize the greed. Mm-hmm. So you take the ability for the greed to consolidate in power. But the problem that we're having now is this corporate totalitarianism where the capitalism is leading to the corporations consolidating too much power and then owning the government. So the question is, how do you keep the things that work about capitalism while democratizing the power? And that's the problem we're facing right now as a country and as a planet.
Well, it's and then not only that, but all of that wealth keeps funneling up instead of down.
It's getting worse. The income disparity is getting worse, and so you can't just say capitalism is going to solve that, because it's not. You need regulation. I'm a business owner. I'm a capitalist, but at the end of the day, I know that people like me, people who build businesses, those people need regulation.
Yep.
They're not going to do the right thing. Now, my wife will make me do the right thing, but most people don't have a great wife. that's going to make them do the right thing.
Right.
You need. See, I'm being silly, but I'm also being serious. Like you need regulation on corporations. It doesn't mean
but
go
there's also
communist.
such a
It means
thing as
regulation.
Too much regulation.
Sure,
You know,
I mean,
because like too much regulation is what's keeping Elon Musk from putting his lithium ion, factory here in the United States. It's too much regulation. He can't get it built, which is like, okay, why? He would have to pay too much in taxes. There's too much red tape. It's just a pain in the ass to deal with the American government and all of this regulation. So regulations,
right? California is like,
it's a nightmare with the regulations. Like to start a business in this, like, it's a nightmare how much money you have to spend to start a business in this state.
So you can see it from both sides.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a paradox. We're back
It's
to
a
that word
paradox. A paradox.
It's
quite amusing paradox.
It
Guys,
is.
I'm going to have to bounce here. I've got
Do
to.
it.
This is
Killer conversation. That was fun.
This is a great conversation, and I agree. I think this is part of the great filter. My mother keeps fucking texting me over and over and over again.
I've got so many calls on my phone.
Bing, 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 bing. I'm not sure if she's talking about this conversation or what, but my God, what a phenomenal conversation. But again, this is what it's about. It's about like how do we figure the problems out with the technological growth we have, and maybe the ASI can help. Maybe the AI can help, guys.
It'd be nice. I mean, it'd be nice, but like who's it's a human programming this AI.
It has to be open source for sure.
For sure.
That's a really interesting point. Like,
don't forget that Carl's trying to leave.
oh yeah, Carl,
Okay.
tell everybody where they can find you when you're. Thank you. See, do you see how having a great wife helps everything?
Yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Carl, please tell everybody how they can find you, where they can find you. I'm super stoked to do your show. There it is, right there.
Go subscribe on Carl Vibe or on Instagram. I got my first live show going tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Woo, woo.
I've got Augustus Britton coming on. We're going to be talking about meditation and the nature of consciousness and reality. And I'm going to maybe sneak in a UAP UFO phenomenon question or two on him and see what he thinks. But I would love to have anybody on there popping in, join in the chat.
What time is that again? You said noon PST?
West Coast time right at noon. And
So
just
3
as long
p.m.
as
Eastern.
I actually might. Are you looking? You said you're doing a panel. Or you're just doing a one-on-one interview.
I would love to have you on if you want to come on.
I might be able to pop in for that actually because I've got some time that's been freed up a little bit.
It's my first show. I really wanted to go smooth. Do it, man.
Indeed you do.
Anybody that shows up there, I'll shoot you the link, and that would be great.
Yeah, dude, shoot it on our chat. I'll stop by.
Carl,
Awesome.
you're the man. Thank you for
Appreciate it,
joining,
guys.
and make sure you go for follow Carl Vibe. I think I'll add it to the description after this show.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it. Great
All right.
conversation, guys.
All right,
Yeah, that was
later.
fun, man. That was a killer.
Oh man. Rather tell everyone where they can find your YouTube channel because it's fascinating. And one of the things I love about Rather, and so do you share your
Other than his face.
Other than his face, he's adorable.
It's my favorite face. I think. I swear to God, rather, I think you have my favorite face on the planet right now. Seriously,
Appreciate it, Louis.
seriously. No, I seriously mean that.
He's a sweetheart, and incredibly intelligent. And whenever we go too far in one direction, Rather's always right there to call us out, and we appreciate that, Rather. But I love your channel because I love how you cover the UAP topic. I love how you cover the consciousness topic. I love how you cover quantum physics, and you just really aren't afraid to make hypotheses and dig deep into these conversations and questions. But you always do it with a balanced outlook, and I love the fact that, you look at the mainstream science, you look at the out of the box academic hypotheses, and you make people think. And so I really appreciate what you're doing. Tell people where they can find you.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Michael. Ratherbesquidding.com. Look me up on YouTube, and yeah, I'm always looking at the weird science ideas and trying to link them somehow to these UAP phenomenon. And I got some interesting stuff there. Check me out.
Well,
That's fantastic.
and also, I mean, Rather reached out to me. He was thinking about doing a segment also on our show where he comes on, just gives us a little bit of Rather Be Squidding knowledge, and then disappears in ink.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd rather the UFO community be focused on. So.
For sure. And dude, we're anytime. Like seriously, let's start doing it. next week if you want. I mean, I would love for you to come in as many times as you want and give us your perspective on things, and get the conversation going in a great way. Because I agree with Michael. I just started watching because I was like, wait, Rather's got a YouTube channel?
I know,
So
I
I just
know.
started watching Rather's show. I'm like, this guy is way better than my show. Way better.
You don't
way
get this
better.
kind of a melding of perspectives and stuff that you guys put
Yeah.
on. You know, this is great here, and I really enjoyed my time here, and I'd be very happy to come back on.
Oh, we'd be honored
we
to have you back on, Rather.
We love you as part of this team, man. As far as I'm concerned, you're part of my show anytime.
100%. Right here at the Singularity Lab as well. Thank you, Rather, and we'll catch you soon, brother.
Thanks, guys. See you
Later. I love this show. I love the
Love
people.
this show.
I love chopping it up. I love,
This show.
you know, and so many things can be so polarized. And I know, like, you know, we broke off into some political conversations, but
Yeah.
I think being able to like talk it through and have multiple perspectives and really listen to one another, and you know, we can also yell at each other, and that's fun too.
Yeah, well, it's not angry. It's just passionate.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's like that was anger. That was pure anger, actually. That was
But
pure.
I
no, I'm
think that
kidding.
we can actually verbalize things in a certain way that if people are actually listening, they understand that it's coming from a thought and not a political platform.
Right.
Like this is not. It's not political to care about human beings.
I don't think so.
And if you make it political, that's on you. I'm sorry. Like, it's not on me. Like,
Dude,
I just want
real quick.
people
I'm
to-
sorry. I'm
people
sorry.
to
I'm so
live
sorry.
happy lives.
Right. I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. But Internet UFO Database says, peace out, back to building the centralized UFO sighting database. We gotta talk to Internet UFO Database because we've been talking about this whole thing of like having a centralized hub of research, of reporting, and I'm really curious to see what he's building it up to. So Internet UFO Database, make sure you hit us up in Discord or on Twitter, because we'd love to learn more about what you're doing.
And yeah, I can tell you now. I mean, I know this show. I don't know. Does this show feel scattered to people? Our shows, like we Michael and I will be getting together here in the next 2 weeks to really trim the fat and make sure that everything on both of these shows is as organized and put together as we humanly can make it. So that way, when you guys have suggestions or you have topics that we can talk about, we don't miss them.
Right.
Because right now we're juggling so many different balls that you guys are giving us so many great ideas for content, or you're reaching out to us, and I know for sure I'm missing so many messages, or I'm misreading them because I'm driving when I'm doing it, or whatever the situation is. And we are, trust us, the wheels are in motion to make sure that all of these things do not get missed and they get included in the show as many times as you guys bring it to us. I mean, we've got an insanely active Discord, and I feel bad because I know you have just killed it with the Discord. You're really trying with the Discord. But I'm like, I can't drive and respond to every comment on Discord, Twitter, YouTube, you know, and these are things I want to do. Don't get me wrong. These are things that are important. We want to interact with you guys, but we also need a structure in which we can do it. So we're working on that. Just be patient is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and the more you guys can help us out by like if you're sitting here listening to the show and you haven't subscribed yet, come on,
subscribe
and hit the button, hit the bell, so you get notified whenever we go live. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday here, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on UCR, the Unidentified Celebrity View. Make sure you get that out there, because the more you get that out there, the more we're able to monetize this thing, so we can actually do this.
Big plans for this show, you guys. Like, seriously, like some seriously big plans with big guests, insanely great conversations, and segments and things that you guys are going to become familiar with and always come back for. These are all merchandise. I know you guys have been asking for hoodies and shirts. And, I mean, pretty soon, I don't know.
We can't keep up right now.
We can't keep up. We can't keep up. So we're
working on it.
We're working on it.
And we're also looking for volunteers.
Yes,
we're looking
absolutely.
for writers. We're looking for editors. We're looking for people who want to, help with SEO or link descriptions or cutting pieces of shows so that we can get more content out there on social media.
Mm-hmm. We're looking for everything. We're looking for producers. We're looking for guest bookers. We're looking for all of it. All of it.
Yep. Hit us up privately, hit us up publicly, add us on Twitter. Oh, don't forget, Kristen's now on Twitter at Mataluni. You can find her in the description below. I was like, Kristen, you got to sign her. She's like, no, I don't want to tweet her. Trevor Shredder in the comments says, not scattered. This is real people talking about real topics in a real way. Trevor, we really appreciate it. I found Trevor recently because he's been following this show, and I saw he subscribed to my channel, and I saw he had a channel. I went and looked at his channel. This dude plays the guitar, plays the electric. Dude, this guy shred. I mean, he's incredible. His name's
Trevor Shredder.
Shredder is an incredible shredder.
I'm looking him up.
So I'm actually meeting with him tomorrow on Skype, and we're gonna work out some guitar lessons. He's gonna teach me how to shred like Trevor Shredder.
What guitar lessons?
That guitar right behind.
That's starting from nothing. Mike can play.
I can. Yes.
Oh, you can play. Okay,
I can play guitar.
Got it.
Yeah. I've been playing acoustic for a while, but I just behind Kristen's head that Epiphone Les Paul. That guy right there.
Oh, cool.
That's what I need. That's what I need the most help with. So that's what
I found Trevor Shredder.
You found Trevor Shredder? Subscribe to Trevor Shredder. He's the man.
I'm subscribing right now.
He's the man.
That's cool.
Super. Well, hell of a show.
Dude, that was fun.
Let's enjoy our evenings, get some rest, relax.
Dude, tomorrow's gonna be my first day off in a little bit. So
good for
not
you.
really. I mean, we got a show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna be talking about Stephen Greer, by the way. I gotta watch that tonight and see what crazy stuff he said. Take some notes. We'll talk about it. If he can, maybe watch it, or I don't know. I'll just give you the highlights tomorrow.
Yeah, if you could just give us the highlights, that'd be dope.
That's awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for putting that whole conversation on my shoulders. Because that's what I really want to dive into right now. I am so not looking forward to this. But there are people that are not agreeing with Greer, but they're saying this guy's making some decent points every once in a while. So I want to see if there are any decent points. But anyway, join us tomorrow. We'll talk about it.
All right.
I'm sure he does. Yeah, broken clock's right twice a day. I'm sure he does. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. But anyway, you guys, thank you for watching today's show. Subscribe, like, share. Check me out. My Twitter handle's Lou Angeles. We're going
in the description. Your link tree's in the description as well.
Yep, everything's in the links down below. We're going to be going tomorrow, 1 p.m. with Michael Mataluni over here. Christian, you got to come on whenever you want. You're more than welcome. You have open invitation too. We're going to be talking UAPs, UFOs, all sorts of fun stuff tomorrow. There's more videos to look at. I'm sure there'll be news between now and tomorrow as well. So yeah, we'll see you then.
Love it. Have a great day, and we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Thank you for joining the Singularity Lab. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share.